Mayor Dudina.
Here. Great. And now we have, it's my pleasure to invite Boy Scout Troop 866. Is it Boy Scouts? It's Cub Scouts. To come and give us the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, the Girl Scout. Right, we have Girl Scout Troop 6914. Come on, girls, come up. Just come up. Don't wait. Girl Scouts, get in here. There you go.
Very nice. Oh, there's a couple more. After the pledge, stay there for just a minute, Mom and Dad.
Are we ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
There's some Mom and Dad that need to take pictures. I know you were a little late.
Come up here and take pictures. Right. No one
You'll have to.
has to hang out and stay after the meeting. Although
yeah, you have to stay for the entire
Can I borrow your calendar over there for?
Sure. Did exactly like yours.
No. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. And parents, you don't need to hang out.
That's
So
in the dim
anyway.
pad.
Thanks, guys. You guys can
Scout rule.
It's really great to see a lot of people here. I know there's a lot of folks that are anxious to speak on possibly the skate park issue. Dakota. So if you guys want to speak, fill out the blue cards. We'd love to have you speak. Or if you want to have an opinion on a subject, just fill out the blue cards. It's really important. So again, guys, if you come to the meeting, it's really important to be counted. So if you want to speak or you want to have your opinion be counted, it's really important to fill out blue cards. Okay, thanks. All right. Great to see so many young people participating in our great democracy. Very, very, I know it makes all the council members super happy. And now we have council reports, starting with Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you. As our chamber liaison representative, I was at the March 14th Chamber of Commerce meeting, and they are planning their program of work for the entire year, and a lot of good things happening at our Chamber of Commerce. I also did attend our March 19th LOSAN meeting. That LOSAN is the heavy rail corridor from San Diego all the way up to San Luis Obispo. I did attend the Chamber breakfast. The guest speaker was our mayor, who waxed eloquently on the city of Imperial Beach. You did a great job, Mayor. Thank you. On March 23rd, I did attend the Sandag Transportation Committee meeting. On the 27th, we had the Beach Avenue Street End presentation by the Port District with preliminary designs of the comfort station at the end of Beach Street. It was well attended by members of the community. On the 28th, we had an alley ribbon cutting ceremony, which sounds a little odd, but you know, for the neighbors in that neighborhood, they were very appreciative of the good alley work that we have done paving that alley and the difference it's going to make for their children. And that was the alley between Emory and 10th. I did attend the Seacoasters meeting, which is chaired by Councilmember Spriggs. It was a very well attended with good presentations from the Port District and also our upcoming new hotel as well. That same day, I did attend the LOSAN meeting, which unfortunately was held downtown on opening day of the Padres. It was a bit challenging to get to that meeting, but I made it, and the way I made it was by taking the trolley in. So don't ever forget your option of public transportation. And on April 2nd, I did attend the LAFCO meeting, and I just wanted to make our city aware that LAFCO is changing the way they do things a little bit, and they will be performing a municipal service review area. The year that we are going to be reviewed, this is just a heads up to city staff, is 2021, 2022. Some big things going on at LAFCO with service review. And that is all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Spriggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple redundancies here. I also was very pleased to be at the alley ribbon cutting and to see the neighbors turn out and really appreciate that work that we've done. And we've done alleys all over the city now, and it's really making a big difference for the quality of life. The chamber breakfast was indeed great. Mayor, you did a good job, as Councilmember Bragg said. I was fortunate to attend the South Bay Union School District Awards ceremony, which was on March 9th. There were a lot of parents there. Councilmember Patton was also at that event. And it was great to see the recognition of so many staff and teachers for all the hard work they do for our kids in the district. On March 15th, I chaired the League of California Cities, Coastal Cities Issues Group Leadership Committee, which is composed of electeds all up and down the coast. And we are planning to meet with the Coastal Commission to talk about this relationship between the Coastal Commission and cities, a very important topic for us as we're working on our local coastal program update right now. The mayor did a great job chairing the Sandag Shoreline Preservation Working Group, which for the first time, I believe, in years, met here in Imperial Beach at the estuary. That group focuses mostly on shoreline issues, but this time they were focusing on habitat rehabilitation and restoration and how that relates to climate resiliency. Looking at areas such as the estuary, the bay, the tidal ponds on the bay, and the coastline. So I think that was really a great opportunity for everyone to actually see the environment that they meet about and talk about in the bowels of the Sandag building for the most part. Tomorrow, I will serve as a commissioner on the Metro Joint Powers Association, the Metro Wastewater Commission, which has a full agenda. And next Thursday and Friday, to wind up, I will be chairing the League of California Cities statewide policy committee on housing, community, and economic development. And we have a very packed agenda that will include a lot of information and legislation to consider on the homelessness issue, which affects this community and many others. So it's been a busy time period since our last meeting, and looks like it's going to be busy between now and the next one as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patton.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, on March 9th with Mr. Spriggs and numerous parents and community members, district champions through South Bay Union School District I went to. You know, they honor everybody in the community that supports our schools. So probably everybody in this room. Then on March 10th, I went to the Yoga Fest. That was a 3-day event. I went on the rainy day, and you'd think it'd be a ghost town. It was packed. You know, it was. They were saying it's cleansing the air. You know, so I thought that was kind of cool. So I didn't do any yoga, but I walked around and met lots of vendors, and majority of them were from either out of town or out of state. So a lot of people came to IB just for that. Then on March 20th, at the request of the mayor and city manager, I flew up to Sacramento for the day. I flew up at 12 noon, took the day off, flew up at noon, came back at 6 in the evening, and met with Senator Ben Hueso about the possibility of trying to acquire some money, lots of money, to build a new pool in Imperial Beach. And so, although they didn't say, here's the check for $4 million, they did say, we'll look into it. And so, you know, it's a stepping stone. And I really believe that pool, like our library and all the other great things in Imperial Beach, will just make our community even better. So that's something that our council is 100% behind. And I look forward to that being built someday soon. And then finally, somebody handed me a rock. Miss Lowry son handed me a rock, and I really appreciate you handing them to me instead of throwing them at me. Thanks so much.
Mr. West.
That's all.
Great. Yeah, Bobby, it was good to see you also at the Yoga Festival as well. And I think that just to kind of give it a little bit of more about the Yoga Festival. So we had over 1,000 people that came to our beach and spent the day doing yoga. And it was nice to do a little yoga with the mayor and his wife on the stage to start it. And it rained all the first day. Second day, and they were still out there. The second day, sun came out. But you know what was really disappointing to me, and I think that this really highlights that the work that the mayor is doing is so important, is that we had a sewage contamination issue that day. And it broke my heart to see all these people from all over the country coming to do yoga on our beach. And it really just made me fired up to make sure that we continue our work that the mayor is spearheading to ensure that we can get ahead of this. And I know that I don't want to steal any thunder from the mayor, but I just think it's really important that we had that. It's that we need to keep the pressure up, and it's important for the mayor to continue doing that. So thank you. On to other things. So, and then yesterday I was actually part of the, as the Imperial Beach representative, we were at the South County EDC, the Economic Development Council. Great presentation was put together by the South County EDC as far as how much money is really brought to our county from our military contingency. And I don't think people really realize that San Diego County is the second highest county that receives money from our military dependents. And it's throughout Navy, Air Force, all those people. We're only second to what county do you think we are? DC. So that we are second to DC. So it was an amazing presentation. I know Andy was there for it. Just an incredible thing. But one thing I'll take away from that, they've got a great dashboard of data that tells you exactly which part of the cities are getting that. And you know what? We need to do a little bit more to try to get some of that money down here in IP. So I think it was a great thing. I'm very excited about it. Obviously with the military and me, I was fired up and made some connections, and want to make sure we're continuing that. So looking ahead, tomorrow I'll be, as a South County representative, I am the South County Airport Authority. We meet tomorrow morning at 0900 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Sorry about that. So I'd love to see some people to come out. And then April 6th on Friday, we have the Tijuana Verde, the Tijuana Innovadora, the Binational Environmental Working Group is being held at our library from 12 to 1:30. So if you have some time free on Friday, come by, be a part. We're really looking at this is a group that brings together enviros from both sides, nonprofits, to really want to work on the things that are going on in the River Valley. So, and then Sierra Service Project is that night. We have our community service dinner from 6 to 8 at the Boys and Girls Club. And then last but not least, Creek to Bay on the 21st at Camp Surf from 9 to 12. So all great things are coming up in our community.
Great. Mr. Hall.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we are asking for a motion to switch the two presentation items, numbers 1.1 and 1.2. Essentially, we want to do the proclamation for autism, and then we'll move into the report on the Sun and Sea Festival. We'd look for a motion for the council for that, if that's possible.
Second.
Please vote. Great, thank you. So,
And then I do have one other announcement.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Please
Yeah, as you remember, we had the arm wrestling contest earlier in the week, and I won. What can I say? But we all arm wrestled to be able to do this next thing, and that is to be able to recognize Wes Baumier for a lot of work that he's done in our city and what he's done. I don't know if everyone knows, but he is the Navy liaison to Imperial Beach from Naval Base Coronado. And we wanted to get Wes a couple of gifts, so we'll call him up here and embarrass him and give him a chance to say goodbye to us. But Wes is retiring again. And then he said he'll be back in June, and then he's going to retire again. So, but we're only going to give him gifts once. So, but no, we've really appreciated Wes. He's been with us for about 4 years now and has really helped us walk through the new coastal campus that's happening just north of the city of Imperial Beach, and has always been there to answer a lot of your questions when the residents call on helicopters flying too low or national anthems being played too loud. It seems like Wes is always there and helping our residents. And so we wanted to take just a minute and make sure that we recognize Wes for all that he's done for the city of Imperial. And he loves to speak in public. Whoa. Now. Okay. Come on, everyone wants to hear this. This is poetic.
Thank you. Thanks again for all your help.
Thank you, Wes. We appreciate it.
Now we have public comment. We have Ann Porter from the IB Arts Bureau.
Members, Mayor Dedina, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I'm here from the Imperial Beach Arts Bureau, and I am the president of the Arts Bureau. We were formed in September 2015 at the request of Mayor Dedina. We're a collaborative group of artists and creatives. Our mission is to empower local artists and engage the community in arts experience. We partnered with Four Walls International to create the two community spaces at 10th and Iris and on Seacoast. We've just recently done a bench at Triangle Park that's, I find, stunning personally. And we have also participated in the Sun and Sea Festival in 2017 as parade judges. Very, very fun. And I'm here today to announce a citywide art event called Rock the Walls that has been generated by council member Mark West. We'll be collaborating with a group called Pangea Seeds. Pangea Seeds is a worldwide arts organization whose focus is environmental and ocean health. So we'll be working with international artists to create 4 murals starting April 16th along Palm Avenue and the bikeway at 7th to enliven our walls in the city. In addition to being stunning works of art, murals, as you may know, reduce blight, graffiti, and our aim is to engage our neighbors and friends in an experience of art that they will see alters their existence. So we're on Facebook, Imperial Beach Arts Bureau. You can also look up Pangea Seeds. Thank you, Councilmember West, for the opportunity to work with this international. So check us out, April 16th. Bring a paintbrush.
Great, thank you so much. Now we have June Engel. It's good to clap for art. Thank you. It's very good to clap for art. We have June Engel, now from the San Diego County Library, IB branch.
So hi everybody, I'm Jude Engel, I'm branch manager at the Imperial Beach Library, right across the street over there. I wanted to say hi and let you know that next week is our official birthday week. The library will be 1 year old. So I'm very excited about that. We're going to hold a sort of a birthday party in conjunction with our Dia de los Niños program, which is a nationwide program that gives books to all kids that show up at the library. On that. As well as we're going to have cake and balloons. I'm going to be showing the PowerPoint presentation that I did at grand opening, which is basically you're watching the old library go down, you're watching the new one go up, and not quite slow-mo, but just every time I could go above the fence and take pictures. We're going to also have a story time in which Councilmember Mark West, Lori Bragg, and Chief French are going to be reading stories to kids. I promised them that I would not be picking out the books this time. Usually I pop in a little booby trap book some time to play with them. But Carmen's going to be doing that. She's our youth services librarian. She's promised to find some nice books for you guys to read. Hope you guys can all come. It's a week from Thursday at the library. The other thing is we've just gotten through, and Mayor Dedina was talking earlier, Register of Voters is going to have open registration at the library on all day Friday the 13th. So if you want to come and register to vote, if you're 16, there are actually options for pre-registration. Now is the time to have your voice out there. Everything that's happening all over the place, now is the time. So we encourage you all, if you're not registered to vote, to come on down and register to vote, because we put this together so you guys would have the opportunity and not have to go all the way over to a register of voters up at Kearney Mesa. So I apologize for giving you my back, but I wanted to emphasize this to the community. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. We look forward to seeing you at the party. And thank you so much for getting us to where we're at, that we have this one-year celebration.
Thank you so much. And now we have a presentation and proclamation in recognition of Autism Awareness Week, and Councilmember Bragg will read that. Okay.
But I believe it. Is this on? Can you all hear me? I can talk loud enough, but and this was not planned, but you know, great minds think alike. So thank you for wearing blue, which is the color for autism. Autism Awareness Month is April. And whereas autism, the fastest growing development disability in the United States, affecting more than 3 million people, is an urgent public health crisis that demands a national response, with 1 in 68 children diagnosed on the spectrum. So Eric, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, it's very lengthy. She's gonna cry. On a Monday night, and I wanted to thank our city manager, who, if you happened to be down at Pier Plaza and noticed that the lights on the bench, the bench there were lit up in blue, that was why. And many of our local businesses also participated in lighting up in blue. It is a national crisis, the number of children that are being diagnosed. Xavier gave each one of us a rock that he and his mom had painted. And I know the support that this community gives for people with all disabilities, whether it's autism, blindness, deafness, any type of mobility issues. This is a community that embraces and supports those disabilities. I just wanted to thank you all.
Very nice. Thank you so much, and thank you, Eric and Xavier. Appreciate that. Okay, and now we have presentation by Leah Goodwin, co-chair of the Sun and Sea Festival. We'll give a presentation regarding the 2018 Sun and Sea Festival. Thank you so much, Leah. Oh, and Shirley as well. Not the West. Okay.
The other co-chair. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It seems like a while for us to be talking about last July when we're almost at this year, but we thought we should just kind of tell you about how things are going.
And
right?
They're going fabulous. We actually started planning 30 days after the end of the last festival. So by mid-August, we're already gearing up and working on 2018.
Do we need a handheld? So the San Diego Union Tribune continues to say that we are an event to watch. 2015, 16, and 17, we've been one of the things that they've highlighted as something you should do and you should go. And I think everybody knows that, but we thought we might have some people in the audience that didn't know the history. I'll let you talk about the 1960s, but not long, because we only have...
Yeah, 1960s, the Sun and Sea Festival was big here in Imperial Beach. It was the beginning of the U.S. Open Sand Castle. It was geared towards children building sand castles, and it just continued to grow and evolve until what we have today.
I don't think I need it either. Do I need this?
Yeah,
We're recording. Yeah, recording.
We're recording. We're on television somewhere in the cloud. We're in the cloud, right? That's always. So as you know, and I know that Lori was one of the original U.S. Open Sandcastle members, and when that went away in 2014, we kind of came back together with the Port. Thank you, Port San Diego, and formed the five. There were a lot of people in the room who said, you know, we want our sandcastle competition, and we want it to be our birthday, and we want to have the parade, and we want it to be a community event, not one that takes over our community, but one that embraces and supports our community. So we created a 501c3, and we are now in our fifth year. It's going by fast of creating the festival. And so the goal is really to restore our sandcastle competition and recreate the family-friendly event for the city in celebration of our birthday.
So, well, one of the things that we've done, and I know we've talked about it at length, is we've all experienced when our sandcastle competition kind of overtook our town. We wanted to bring it back down and claim it, make it our community event, you know, by the people, for the people. And so we didn't have all these people coming in from Los Angeles, San Francisco. So we wanted to make it our event. And I think we've succeeded. We've tempered the growth, and we're trying to keep the population exactly how it is. We like the size. It's manageable. It doesn't take over our town. Our community loves it, embraces it. You walk around, you see your neighbor has got some decoration showing that it's going to be a part of the Sun and Sea Festival.
So we actually have a whole committee that this year that helps us do this. Erica has been a committee. She's a member before, and because it takes a lot of hands. We're all volunteering to make this event happen, and that's exciting. The 2017 festival had a sub-theme, which was pirates. It was a lot of fun for the parade and for the community. And last year we took place along Seacoast Drive, all the way from Ivy Boulevard to Palm Avenue, with entertainment and vendors at Portwood Plaza and the Kids Zone in Hughes Park. And what Julie's talking about, and I'll go to that when we get to 2018. So that's how we did 2017. We had about 100,000 visitors and about 3,000 community people involved, and with it largely being family. All right, we have two people that get paid, our public relations person and our event sponsor. And our PR person generated over 7,272,000 media impressions. That's all that talk that the young people got to know about. And because we really did a lot of social media and some other 53 stories and lots of good coverage. And then again, that's the media balance, because we want to promote our event, but we don't want 200,000 people to show up the day of. And so we ended up with a little over 100,000 people by the city's record. And we had our parade sponsored by North Island Credit Union. And they've been our parade sponsor, and they will still be our parade sponsor. The parade changed from starting in Sports Park to starting at Mar Vista High, with a lot of support from the city. And that was a better place to stage the parade. It then went down Ebony and turned on Seacoast. But this year then it went out to Ivy Boulevard, but that stopped us from crossing Ivy Boulevard, which was a traffic was a little it was so good. So these are our winners, in case you forgot them. We had our first place was the Misty Mountain. The second place was Take Time to Smell the Roses. I think I need to put that on as a screensaver. The third place was Social Extinction. And we had a People's Choice, which was Medieval Castle. We had our Kids in Castles event with about 50 kids, sponsored by the Optimist Club.
Eric, you should be up here talking.
Eric runs our Kids in Castles, and Candy's been on our committee helping us out. We only have some.
Yeah, for a little reference, the Imperial Beach Optimist Club is a longtime supporter and a participant in this event, one of the originals way back. Kids in Castles, last year we had 15 plots, 5 kids per plot. We gave out prizes and toys and interacted with approximately 125 kids and their families. So just that little impact in our little corner is how we serve the community. And it also allows us to reach out and do all the other programs that the Optimists do and all the other, events that we have in town. So that's my little spiel. It's a great event. Come see us, Kids in Castles, Sun and Sea, July 14th.
And that's how we are. We are, if you've ever come to a Sun and Sea Festival, we're a rather fluid group because we are volunteers, and so it should be fun. But we really want to thank our sponsors. We've had 4 major sponsors, and that is this city and all the support we have from staff and fire and sheriff and the port, who just suggested an award of $15,000 this year. Thank you so much. And who actually got us back on track for being the Sun and Sea in the county of San Diego, as well as CalAm. Those are our big sponsors. It takes about $90,000 to put on the Sun and Sea Festival. And then we have a lot of other people that come on and give us money in kind. And now we go to July 15th, 2018.
The superheroes in the sand.
Kapow!
Pow!
So this year there are some changes. The event footprint will be smaller. We're going to close Seacoast Drive between Evergreen and Dahlia, rather than all the way from Ivy Boulevard to Palm Avenue. The Carnival Kids Rides activities that we had on the north end of Seacoast Drive really weren't, they didn't really work for everybody, and they didn't make any money. They were just a thing. And so we're not going to have the carnival, but we will have Kids Zone. We'll have Kids in Castles and all the things in Dunes Park that really make sense for us to do, that really keep the Sun and Sea and the Sandcastles going. And so there's the Master Sandcastle competition, the parade in the morning, the farmers market, the Kids Zone, and the entertainment. The entertainment just keeps the event happening. I do know some people that come and pretty much have a good time. The entertainment, they go look at Sandcastle, see how they're coming, come back, and that's all in the plaza. So this is our event schedule. Friday, we are making an assumption, Mayor Dedina, that we're going to have our great breakfast. And we put you in there, hopefully, because it really is part of the theme of the weekend and of the day. I mean, you kind of look forward to it. Thursday night, the forums come in. Friday, the community comes out. And Saturday, we have the Sun and Sea Festival.
Well, one of the really cool things too is this year we've already got more sign-ups for the master builders. They're already started coming in. We've had more vendors signing up, and so it's already started off with a bang.
So we're really grateful for the partnership we have, the support of Andy and the staff, and the fact that you all come out and help us come back on track with when I heard about IB was Sandcastles, and I think that people that are we're back to that. You say Imperial Beach, yep. I say Sandcastles,
yep. And we are also here respectfully requesting we park more than July
50, because we know we have to ask. Do we have any questions? If we find anything we can answer for you?
First, thank you. It takes a giant team. You guys have a team. I counted 20 people. That's not counting all the volunteers that show up. And you guys are great. So thank you very much. And I'm deep inside, I'm kind of glad the carnival games or carnival rides are gone. I know as a parent, when I walk up, the first thing I don't want to have to do is shell out $10 for my kid to ride on a ride, but rather than walk down and see some natural sandcastles. So I think that's a great move. So thanks for what you do.
I think you guys, obviously, between the kids with Eric, and you guys are doing a great job, and I think it's awesome. And I love that you guys have scaled this back a little bit to really focus it into our area. And I think that was that's a really good move for everyone. And I think I I know that some of the community was definitely wanting that as well. So I know you guys have been, your ears are to the community. So I totally understand that. So thank you very much. And I look forward to it. And I will miss wearing a pirate hat. That's all I'm going to say.
Superhero.
Cape. You need a cape. Cape.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for the presentation, all the work you do. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to celebrating French Independence Day on July 14th at the Sun Sea Festival. So,
Mayor and council, without dissent, we'll go ahead and move forward with Dunes Park and planning it that way, and then we'll bring out to you for a final look in the next few months, exactly how the layout looks. Okay. But we'll move forward with Dunes Park without dissent. So.
Great. Before consent item, I just wanted to comment on item 2.8, an update on stuff on Tijuana River stuff. Our beach had an advisory yesterday. Water smelled on Monday, Tuesday. There were folks out on social media documenting sewage spills that applies to Tijuana, just raw sewage on the beach, which is really unfortunate. But we've had a little bit of some good news, sort of a down payment from the United States and Mexican governments on fixing the problem. Probably should have happened a year ago, but we're going to be positive and say that we're moving forward. So a couple things happened. First, U.S. Congress passed the budget. The budget for fixing the problem had been zeroed out by the president and Congress, but thanks to our entire congressional delegation, all of our bipartisan coalition of congresspeople, and our senators Feinstein and Harris, they worked with legislators from across the U.S.-Mexico border, again, bipartisan, to get $10 million back in the budget for projects all along the border. So we're not still clear about how much money will be allocated through the EPA's, what's called the Border Wastewater Infrastructure Program. So that's something we'll be looking at, but that's good news. Right at the same time that happened, 2 weeks ago, Mexico's foreign minister was with me at the Sandiag Borders Committee. He was also at UCSD. He actually sat between me and Poway Mayor Steve Voss. Actually wasn't at the Borders Committee, he was at the main committee of Sandiag. First time a Mexican, any foreign minister has addressed a body like that in San Diego, and specifically addressed Tijuana River issues and said that they would be making a major announcement. The following week, which was last week, they did make that announcement. The Minister of the Environment and the Minister of our Secretary of Water Resources in Mexico was with the Governor of Baja and TJ. They announced they'd be spending $4.3 million to upgrade, improve some infrastructure in Tijuana that causes sewage spills. So that was a down payment. Late, but we're moving forward. So unfortunately, we're going to an election cycle in Mexico. Everything pretty much shuts down between now and the next 6 months. So that makes things more difficult. But because of our lawsuit, the IBWC is listening. So as we speak, bulldozers are we don't have to do the dam ourselves, but the International Boundary and Water Commission is putting an earthen dam across the Tijuana River, east of the Dairy Mart Road Bridge, to stop all those flows that happen, the dry weather flows that happen. So those flows won't reach our beach. That's actually really, really good news. That's a result of everybody in this room that's written a letter, everybody who's made a phone call, everybody who's gone to a march, everybody, including this council, every council member, our city staff who have been pressuring the International Boundary and Water Commission to listen. Yesterday, I had senior advisors to the director of the EPA from Washington at the lifeguard station. I'm going to thank the city manager and our lifeguards for being wonderful hosts. And we talked about the issue. They could see the signs. They were frustrated as well by the IBWC. And hopefully you're taking a message back to Washington to fix that. So we've got the attention of folks. Now we need to have some more things to do. But really specifically, I think that berm in the river is going to make a difference. It will make a difference. We need berms in 6 canyons now. But also we'll be meeting with the new director of the sewage agency in Tijuana. The old sewage director was fired, not because of the horrible things he did to us, but because of the landslide that happened in Tijuana. And did people die on that? People didn't die, but a lot of people lost their homes. I'm not sure, was it 100 people that lost their homes because of a leak in a water pipe that the government knew about and pretended didn't happen. So the governor fired him over that. So the new director has reached out to us. We'll be meeting with him soon. And we got to get a handle on what's coming out of the beach. That's what's going to kill us this summer. So anyway, I want to thank, this has been, again, the message this year is we are a leaderful city. every one of our city council members, all our staff, but more importantly, all our community is here. And for all the young folks here that are here tonight, thank you for being here. It's an example that we can make a difference, that we do make a difference, and more importantly, IB has a voice. We are small, but we are proud, and we are loud. So anyway, thank you, our city council. So with that emotional speech, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve consent calendar item numbers 2.1 through 2.11.
Second.
Oh, I got to vote now too.
You do have to vote.
I said it to say please vote. Did it work?
Motion carried unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, now I know the main items that many of you have come for, and that is item 5.1, request for direction on engaging adjacent residents, users of the skate park, parents, and members of the Parks and Recreation Committee to plan and update the Imperial Beach skate park. City Manager Hall will give the presentation. So for all of you who've given blue cards, no one is required to speak. If you're here and you haven't filled out a blue card, but you have an opinion that, for example, you'd like us to move forward on the skate park, you would like us not to move on the skate park, you can fill out a card and you don't have to come up here. We do count every card. I read them out, and it's important to be heard. So if you'd like your voice to be heard and your opinion to be known and to be counted, basically you're kind of voting, then I'd appreciate having those cards up here. Anyway, great. Mr. City Manager, proceed.
Mayor and Council, as you know, there are a lot of different angles that we wanted to talk about tonight, but primarily what we're approaching the City Council with is we would like direction to form a group of people to really take a look at the skate park, some of the good, some of the bad, some of the things that need to be looked at. And they come from all things. Just this week, I received emails from some of the landowners in the area that were concerned about the noise and maybe some of the music. We've received emails and concerns from some of the users that the park is too small. And if you spend any time over there, the park is so crowded sometimes that kids can sometimes have to wait 20, 30 minutes in between being able to go do some of the tricks. And so we understand that we need to take a really hard look at our skate park. We need to do some upgrades that can both improve the skate park as well as mitigate some of the impacts of the skate park on the surrounding neighborhood. So what we're really seeking tonight is direction from the City Council to organize a group that is well-rounded like that will allow us to get input from the community and from the users and the residents so that we can take a hard look at our skate park and do an upgrade that will hopefully improve the situation for all involved. So that's the issue on tonight's agenda. You know, we're not asking at this point for any money or anything. We just need to make sure that the City Council is supportive of staff moving forward and looking at an update that can maybe address many things on the skate park. Looks like there's a few people interested in giving you their opinion as well, but we just wanted to make sure that we started out on the right foot by asking the City Council for permission to do this. So
if the council indulges, I'd like to just give a little history of the skate park so we're all on the same page. So as some of you know, and maybe most of you are too young to know, there used to be a wooden skate park at the Sports Park Rec Center that pretty much fell apart. And so there was a community-driven effort led by skate parents, but more importantly, skaters. The OG skaters, guys, the ones that are now in the community, really important, okay? And they advocated for the City Council to basically build a skate park. So that happened. They came to the City Council. They went in meetings to raise money. And with that happening, they actually got, the city built a skate park. Unfortunately, I think there was not enough money, so was it 2/3 of it was built? 2/3 of it built, so that's why we have the empty space. And so the idea now is to identify ways to make it safer, and then to possibly work to make it, to improve the noise attenuation so there's less noise. And anyway, good. Okay, with that, we have Veronica Archer. And then for those of you who filled out cards, if you don't want to speak, clap afterwards.
Yeah, because we're gonna be here.
Yeah, we got a long. So for just a couple things for housekeeping, you have 3 minutes. You don't have to speak for 3 minutes. If you don't want to speak, I'll call your name. But and if you want to speak, that's fine. But more importantly, just get to the message quickly, because you have a lot of folks in line. So Veronica.
have to use the bulb.
You need to speak into the microphone.
Thank you guys. On account of one part, so I have just part. Thank you, Mayor Dedina, Mr. Hall, Ms. Lyon, and City Council. So something to keep in mind as all of us come up here and speak to you is that this park, our skate park, is used every day. It's not a seasonal sport. This is used every day by the youth of our community. Okay, and you've got a variety of age groups that are using this skate park. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, and it's actually a really good problem. I mean, our problem is that our youth are infiltrating our skate park, and there's too many of them. So that's the problem we're now dealing with. So again, kind of a good problem. We have too many kids in our community wanting to go outside and play and skate. But there are some concerns that need to be addressed. We've got small kids and we've got bigger kids, and they're so kind to each other, but that doesn't matter when you're moving really fast on a skateboard or a scooter. It becomes a bit dangerous for the little guys. And a huge thank you to the city of Imperial Beach, who it was about 1.5 years ago when we first started bringing this issue up. The city started opening the park earlier on the weekends for us. So those of us with younger kids, we get there earlier. And so that was kind of like the short-term solution was opening the park earlier. And so we, more people could come through. But the afternoons are a bit chaotic and they get scary and there's crashes. And we just, again, we need a bigger park, or we need to address that. So I know that improving the skate park isn't just an expansion. Definitely want to address the other issues. I know there's some noise concerns and a lot of concerns. I mean, we want to improve the skate park and taking the entire community's voice into account. So I would love to serve on the committee if it does get approved. So now another issue that has been impacting the crowd at the skate park is the ocean pollution. So as our beaches are closed more often, and now you can get cited, kids aren't going in the ocean. And this is a surf community. I can guarantee you when the beach is posted, that skate park is more crowded than usual. So that's something else that we kind of have to deal with. Now, skate park gets crowded. So the older kids leave the skate park and they go and they skate in the streets. And they go onto private property. And now they're being unlawful. And they're at Pure Plaza and they're going to get cited by the lifeguards. And that's they just want to skate. They're not trying to break the law, but the skate park is crowded. So no matter what your sport is, you're entitled to have a safe place to do that. Whether it's baseball, but I don't care, whatever your sport is, it's our job as the parents and the community leaders to give them a safe place to do that. Skateboarding is a sport. So it very much is a sport, even though it's not an organized sport.
It's an Olympic sport.
It is. I was very excited about that. Skateboarding is going to be in the 2020 Olympics. So that's just kind of a neat thing. I mean, it just shows you the progression of extreme sports. So, and Shaun White was actually a pro skater before an Olympic snowboarder. So, and it's a very technical sport. These kids are amazing. For them to learn some of these tricks, they're at it for days and months to learn these tricks. It's not for the weak-willed. I mean, they're an amazing group of kids that get themselves to the skate park. They take care of their own equipment, and they deserve to have a place to skate. You know, we're a low-income area. As you probably know, most of our elementary schools actually offer free breakfast to our community, our community kids. So for a lot of our kids, this is what they do. They skate. You know, it's easy to do. It's between you and your board. And again, I'm just going to go back to everyone deserves a safe place to do their activity. And now, my boys actually do amateur youth competitions with skateboarding. So we travel around Southern California.
And so in doing that, and that's when I actually realized how small our park was. Like, we were going to our park for years and thought it was great. And then I started traveling a bit, and I just realized that skate parks can be an absolute gem to a community. It's an asset. I mean, we're traveling now to go to the other people's skate parks. And ours is, there's so many innovations we could benefit from. I mean, they've progressed so much from when our park was initially built. And I'm very thankful that we have our park, but it's time to revisit it. I mean, there's a lot of existing technologies and that we could incorporate. That would be a great benefit to, I think, to our entire community. So I ask that you please vote in support of a skate park improvement plan. So, and just a little bit of background, we've already organized skate park cleanups. We did a barbecue to open up communication with the skaters. It's been a little while since we've done one. But they want this, we want this, and I think our community, I think the time is right and we need it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go down the list of cards. I think most folks don't want to speak, but I'm going to read your name and then. So Joshua Cronk from IB supports this, the skate park. Buford and Mason Clement, their comments support the idea. Giving the IB community a bigger skate park will bring a better place and safer place for kids to skate. Also, there's a need for more skate parks for the communities south of the 54. Agreed? All right. Great. Emily Strickland supports the idea. She lives in IB. Dwayne, do you want to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Mr. Dwayne Fernandez.
Hello, everybody. Dwayne Fernandez, 971 Iris. I just want to address a change that I've seen in the council and the city as a whole. I was part of the
just address the skate park as well. So it's
it's all about the skate park.
Okay.
So I was part of the skate park committee to get this current skate park made, and I must say that whole thing was a negative kind of tough go, right? Because of this type of thing with the other council members. I just thought it was tough in a negative environment. I feel a change has happened, and I feel like it's very optimistic that this might happen. I don't know if it will yet, but that's why we're here, right? We're here to get the community support and show you guys that how much is needed. Veronica said all that needed to be said about the usage of the park. I just want to offer my services as a committee member or whatever, and so I just support it and thank you guys. Thank you guys for the optimistic feeling that I'm having. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Appreciate all your service to IB. Now we have Mr. Oh, Emily, you wanted to speak? Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
So I came from PB. I got here a month.
Talking to the mic. Emily, just say your name officially for the record.
Kind of important.
Talking to the mic.
Emily Strickland. I came from PB. I was not really much of a skateboarder. I mean, yeah, I skateboarded around, but it was more like up and down my street. I was more of a biker. But just coming here, having something like that is a very big opportunity to get out and do something. Just like football, basketball, softball, all sports. I mean, there's a limit and there's an opportunity. It would be nice to have a bigger skate park so it's not like a death zone. Like I said, I'm getting back into skateboarding. I'm trying to get back in the groove, but it's great to be in Imperial Beach. It's positive when it needs to be. So.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Now we have Mr. Gunnar Martin. Gunnar here. Gunnar, do you want to speak, or do you want? Did you want to? He says you want. It says wants to speak. You just come up here. You don't have to make a speech. You just tell us what you'd like us to do. Just come up and talk into the microphone, okay? Take your shirt out of your mouth. There you go. Move the mic forward. There you go. Thank you.
I've been coming to the skate park for lots of years, and I've noticed that every time I go there, it gets like feels like it gets smaller and smaller, and now it's just like it kind of getting a little bit boring, but it's like fun at the same time. But there's like all that empty space, like the grass field right by the park, and then there's like a basketball court, and that no one hardly ever uses. They're always in the red and stuff. And like maybe if you guys would expand it or something like that, you guys could just move it right there because there's like not space.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. Appreciate it. Mr. Bob Miller.
Good evening, Council. Bob Miller, 1167 5th Street. If you're fortunate like I am, living on 5th Street, the first block, you're almost partners with the high school and skate park and sports park and the church on the corner and the ball fields. So it's all good activity, and we just want to make sure that the activity remains good activity. I think it's a good idea to have a committee, and particularly the neighbors who are most directly affected with the noises coming from the skate park and also sport park. Two things that stick out are the amplified sound that comes from sport park and or the skate park, and the hours. The signage is a little bit lacking. I looked up a couple of cities in California, and the hours are usually ended at sunset or shortly after sunset. Our signage is deficient, and I think we need to really focus on this amplified sound. Again, I'm very happy about starting a committee. I think it's a good idea. The activity is a great activity. There's no question about that. So it's just a matter of managing it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Paloma Aguirre, did you want to speak?
Good evening. My name is Paloma Aguirre. I live at 317 Ivy Boulevard, apartment D. I'm also a local co-business owner and clean water advocate for Imperial Beach for some time now. I'm here today to advocate for fair and equitable access to skate park for kids of all ages. I'm going to echo some of the things that Veronica so eloquently mentioned earlier. Same thing. I have these concerns that the way the skate park is built, you have the bowl and you have the railings and the coping, and then you have the long rail that just runs along the skate park. You need to get a lot of speed to do the railing. So if you have a kid that's 6, 7, 8 years old just distracted, it's asking for trouble. And as we all know, we do have a lot of water quality issues here. You know, Imperial Beach has been closed 3 years of the last 10. A lot of surfers go to the skate park as an alternative. So I'm just going to echo what Veronica said. That skate park is way too small. We need an area where we have an area exclusively for, well, not exclusively. Most skate parks don't have exclusive zone for kids, but they have smaller ramps, smaller copings. So I'd be happy to also serve on any committee. I used to actually be a former aggressive inline skater. All my teen years, I spent every day skating rails and ramps. So I know how important it is to have a positive sport in your life that keeps you out of trouble. So yes, I'm here to support item 5.1 and happy to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mary Stone, did you want to speak?
Okay. Hi, my name is Mary Stone. I live on 5th Street here in IB. Our front yard faces the east side of the skate park, so we can see directly into the park most days. I was a part of the original skate park task force with Veronica, and we did the cleanups and the barbecue. I definitely support improvements to the skate park, but I would like to see these improvements come with an increase in security and the implementation of some sort of noise reduction protocol. As a neighbor who's directly impacted by the skate park, the last thing I'd want to see is a bigger, louder park that's not safe for everyone. We need an increased police presence to put an end to some of the illegal activities that go on there. And please don't get me wrong, my issue is not with the park in general or with noise of the kids playing. Like Mr. Miller was saying, we hear cheering from baseball and softball fields, and it's great. We hear game announcements from Mar Vista. We love that. The issue is with the skate park is just the behavior of just a few bad apples. I definitely support improvements to the park, but would just like to see the improvements come with better security and noise reduction. A nicer, more family-oriented park would be a great addition to IB. It might bring back some of the younger kids who don't always feel comfortable hanging out at the park now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Jake Lovato filled out a card, supports the park, doesn't need to speak. Christian Grady or Grade just supports the park. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Javier Nahara supports the park. Is it Vern Pendergraft? Says we support expansion of the skate. Vern, where are you? We support expansion of the skate park. Great. Do you want to speak or? Okay, great. Of course.
Hi, my name is Vern Pendergraft. I'm a homeowner at 1029 4th Street. I'm here with my son, Aiden, and my other two boys. I apologize for the distraction earlier. We just came from the Little League field and they're a little hungry, so we need to get that taken care of. But I wanted to have them here because we all enjoy going to the skate park. I'm a lifelong resident of Imperial Beach. I've seen a lot of changes in the time that I've lived here, and the skate park is one of these great positive changes that has happened in our community. And so I'm just here to express my support for the committee and expanding the park and looking into all of the issues in order to mitigate some of the concerns of the other residents. And I just wanted to kind of draw everybody's attention to the classic Southern California motto. Skateboarding, like we're surfing, that's classic Southern California. And not to belabor the point, but given the water quality issues and things like that, when the beach is closed, you head to the skate park. That's classic Southern California. So we're here to support the park, here to volunteer our time and do what we can in order to help out. I coach Little League, coach soccer, do everything I can to help out in the community. I actually recall as we talked about the situation, I remember scraping the carpet off of the concrete floor of the indoor wood park that we had at one point. So it's been a long history of improvements that we've been having, and I think this is just another step in improving the park and improving the quality of life for residents like my boys here and the other kids that are here as well. A lot of these folks I've known since, or I've either known their parents or somebody at some point along the way, and that's something that's great about Imperial Beach. And I think that, as you can see, there's a lot of support for everybody to come together and work out a plan that makes sense for everybody. So again, just here to support the skate park and the expansion, and to let everybody know that I think there's a lot of community support in order to make this happen.
Thank you so much. Very much. Appreciate it. I'll look your words. The legendary Matt Henry, did you want to speak?
I wrote this because I didn't think I'd be here. My name is Matt Henry. I live at 1257 East Lane. So I'm going to read it. Okay. Mayor, city council members, city staff, and friends, I consider IB Skate Park to be a true community treasure. I remember when the skate park, enjoyed by much of IB's youth was just a dream held on to by kids who'd grown up with access to a wooden one that no longer existed. Those kids grew up and found themselves with kids of their own, and a desire to give those kids not only something they once enjoyed, but something even better. It was a lot of work. They found outside funding through Tony Hawk and all these things to make it work. They gained the support and the momentum of the entire community. And this is before we had the transparent government that we have now. So that was like a major hurdle that they jumped through. I was a pastor at the time. I remember well the day that the park opened. We had purchased a couple of decks from the local skate shop, Ollie Angel, and we raffled those off and did some fun stuff. Really just as an investment in the community. I got to say a few words. There were a lot of excited kids and parents. And since that day, really, the park has remained a major family-friendly feature of the south side of town. It's really sandwiched between Mar Vista High School, the Little League fields, and it attracts students and children of all ages to engage in outdoor sports together with other kids. Adults use it too, which is rad, and I think they should. It just shows how awesome and authentic our Southern classic California beach town really is. and it's on my bucket list to learn how to skate a pool. So that's just a side note. Okay. And you guys know I take my bucket list like really literally. Okay. Though my kids are too little to truly enjoy it now, although maybe not. I saw some little ones out here. I maybe need to get on my dad game. I've always appreciated the diversity of kids enjoying the park, from teens to even at time tots, and I look forward to one day strapping on pads and dropping in. Speaking of dropping in, I'm also happy to report that even though I see many regular faces at the skate park, there is that diversity of age. I've never seen anybody act aggro or like, it's just, there's no locals only thing there, which I really like. It's really a community jewel, which I appreciate. Just a nice observation. Okay, as to the point of today's discussion, I'm 100% for expanding. I have 6 little skaters myself, so I'm going to tip the scale to be overcrowded just on my own. Updating the park to keep it that gold standard that we've done with Dunes Park, and really just the park right next door. And we just redid that, so I think it's just time to do it. I think Andy thinks the same, or we wouldn't be talking about it. Immediately adjacent skate park. Okay, if noise has been a concern raised by residents who reside within a reasonable distance, I support updating the landscape with foliage that keeps the noise down to provide those, provided those plants provide clear sightlines to the park. I think this is important. I believe that clear sightlines are important. It's one of the things I don't love about the fence that surrounds the park. It's kind of hard to see in there. I pass by it a lot, and though it's rare, I have seen underage kids use drugs. I've seen them sell drugs. That time I had toddlers with me, so I couldn't address them. Usually I just kind of dad handle it, but I called the police. They showed up right away, so our system worked perfectly. Thank you guys for that. And that's only one time. However, I pass by a lot, and I do see kind of a disparaging amount of alcoholic beverage containers in the thing. And I just think that like a little bit more visibility would help bring that up. So as we think of trees and foliage, just kind of leave some sightlines. Of course, you know, sightlines aren't the cure for the human condition. People are still going to do stuff, but they're not going to do it right in front of a bunch of other kids that are so like sponges. You know what I mean? So that's just an idea. Let's see. All that to say, I'm 100% pro skate park upgrades. I believe it's a true investment. It continues the momentum we have in making our community one of the most healthy and active beach cities, getting more people outside on the beach, pull-up bars, some line bikes, and yep, skateboards too.
Thank you so much. I have a card for Kendra Briscoe. Kendra, did you want to speak, or I just want to read your comment? Okay. Kendra cleans up the skate park when it is filthy, and she would love to see improvements on skate park. Very important to our community. Thank you. I have a card from Tarzan. Is Tarzan here? And you support. Thank you, Tarzan. I appreciate it. I'm going to make sure everyone knows that their voice is as important as everyone else's. So if you want to speak, you're more than willing. You're more than able to. Gabriel Saldana, did you want to speak? Are you here? Okay. You support the skate park. Great. Thank you. Lily Rendon supports the skate park. Lily, did you want to speak? Where are you, Lily? Great. Okay. Thank you for being here. And Alexis Rendon, you support the skate park? Okay. Thank you. I have Marianne Schultz. Would you like to speak? Great. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight to address this issue. My name is Mary Ann Schultz. I'm at 1137 5th Street, and I have a bird's eye view of the skate park. And before I start, I have to say that I support the skate park. The normal noise, I love it. I love the noise from the baseball field. I like the church music. On Sunday, I like Mar Vista games. So I'm not here to complain about that. What I do think is necessary before any expansion is done is that there's a better policing of the people that are using the skate park. And I'm talking about kids that their profanity is really, it's beyond what I want to listen to. I wake up in the morning, I come out and get the paper, and boom, I'm hit with really foul language. And also the boom boxes. Rap music, it's fine, but I don't want to listen to lyrics that, you know, start with F in this and F in that. I don't think that is fair to the residents of 5th Street. And I've talked to a lot of other people on the block to get an idea of what they would do. And we think that since it's operated, I think it's owned or operated by the Boys and Girls Club. Oh, okay, wrong information. But someone needs to be there to monitor it. And monitor it during the skate times. I feel sorry for the young kids that come there and listen to this. I feel sorry for the families that are picnicking there, and the Little Leagues members. They have to listen to this. So I would be on the team to take a look at this. So that's my bird's eye view from Fifth Street.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Dave Mendiola, did you want to speak? You didn't say if you support or opposed it. Great. Thank you so much. The almost legendary Dakota Hooker. Dakota,
almost.
You support? Great. Thank you.
Almost.
You want to speak? Okay. Stephen Gomez supports. Did you want to speak, Stephen? Okay. Kane Fernandez. Okay. Your dad did. All right. You support. Thank you so much. The legendary Sean Briscoe, lifeguard extraordinaire. Did you want to speak? Bo? Okay. Simon Rendon. It says expand skate park. Simon, did you want to speak? I'm sorry? Okay. Did you want to speak? Okay, that's fine. We get a card from you later. That's all. You can speak on your behalf. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you could just work with Sunem to fill out a card afterwards just to get your information. And say your name.
My name is Yolanda Rendon. I live at 1204 Grove Avenue, Imperial Beach. I've been a resident for 25 years, and I'm here to speak on my son's behalf, Simon Rendon. All these kids are his friends, and he's a really good skateboarder. He graduated from Mar Vista High School. He's a Mariner. He's off now in the military, so when he comes home from leave, he likes to go to the skate park. That's his first thing he likes to do. He's been in competitions to Slam in Mission Beach and Oceanside, everywhere. He's always doing competitions. I think it's very important to expand the skate park for the kids. I'm kind of nervous.
Okay,
for the kids, because it is small and everybody likes to go there, and that's where they, get their stress out and hang out with their friends and, teach each other how to do tricks. Stuff. I've been to the skate park. Me and my husband, we do barbecues for the kids at the skate park. We like to go and hang out with them. And because they are my kids, Alexis and Lily's friends, and they're like a real big family. And I just think that it's better if we do expand it. And if you guys do, it won't be so crowded and everybody could do their own thing. I'm just for it. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Josh Everett, did you want to speak? I says, I'm sorry, where are you, Josh? There you go. Hey, it says expand and upgrade, please. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to thank everybody for coming out. I'm just going to make sure I count. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got more. Okay. Oh, wow, of course. Logan Archer. And what a great name. Supports the name like Logan, you have to support the skate park. And then Jed Archer. Jed, do you support the skate park? Great, thank you. Okay. All right, we got a lot of cards. I'll count them later. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for speaking. And now we have Mr. Spriggs and then Mr. Patton. Well, actually, my comment. It's really important that you guys came out. Your voices are as important as everyone else's, if not more important, because some of you don't vote. Next time you come, feel free to speak. You'll always feel free to reach out to us via email. You see me at the skate park sometimes, but we really appreciate you coming out. More importantly, we appreciate the respectful way you came to the city council meeting, the way that you behaved in a civil manner, and the way that you engaged in democracy. This is not our city, it's your city. This is not our government, it's all of our government. So you don't have to be nervous because you belong here and it's your city. So we're very thankful that you came and really proud of the city that you guys came out to express yourselves in a very civil way. That's not always something we see outside the city. all, but we're glad that you guys embrace democracy and participated in it. So with that, Mr. Spriggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also very impressed with the turnout and how civil everybody has been here tonight. And I think there's hope going forward that we can and will resolve these issues and have a better skate park for everybody. Just so you don't have any false assumptions, I used to skate. And those of you who are of younger generations will appreciate the fact that skateboarding started before there were skateboards. Skateboarding started when there were 2x4s with metal skates nailed underneath them. And that's how we started skateboarding back when I was the age of many of the kids in this room.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, not quite when we invented the wheel, Andy, but
square wheel.
A few years later. And we used to have a competition. I lived on a residential area with a steep hill and a sidewalk, and we would see who could stay on their skateboard the longest going down the hill and still run off and survive. And and all kinds of crazy things. I mean, I can really appreciate, what is happening here and how fun it is and how important it is to have, as we've always voted on this city council, to have recreational activities that are top notch in our community and things for our youth that help engage them and keep them healthy and active. We're all about an active and healthy community. Echoing what the mayor said, but a little bit different take, because I think it portends the way forward here. I hope everybody has heard everybody else today. Yes, it's about improvement. Yes, it's about expansion. But we're a whole community, and there are some concerns that some of the residents have expressed, and we need to address those as we move forward so that we have a better skate park, but we also have a skate park that's a good neighbor for the people who live near the skate park. And, we all pay our taxes. Those folks do too. They own homes there. So we need to respect them as well as respect our youth and try to create a better skate park for everybody. If we listen to each other and work together as a community to solutions to resolve some of these issues, I think that we will, as we always do, come out ahead in Imperial Beach. So I would hope that whatever the committee structure is, that it includes both the proponents of skating and an expanded skate park, as well as, some representatives from the neighborhood where the skate park is. And I know it's going to be difficult because we just heard one of the issues, and that's transparency looking in, right? It's hard to abate noise without some sort of bushes or wall or something like that. And once that goes up, then you can't really see in to regulate what's going on inside. I believe, I think Councilmember Bragg and I were on the council that voted for and funded and approved this skate park. I said at that time that in order for this to really, really work, the community and the parents we needed some sort of a community oversight of the skate park, kind of like how the Little League and softball leagues sort of manage their own affairs. And incidentally, I've said the same thing from this podium regarding the dog park. I think the community that wants these resources really should be involved in making sure that they're used the right way for everybody's benefit. So I'm all for establishing a committee going forward, and I hope that from that committee will be born, an oversight community group that can work with the youth and have volunteers there every day during the open hours, and make sure that everybody is having fun, being safe, and behaving in a way that's not offensive to the younger kids or to the neighbors. So that's my 2 cents. I think we should move forward with the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. You know, I didn't start on a 2x4, but in my time, Precision Bearings just came out. Road Rider 4,
right?
Logan Earthski, Fiberflex, and some of the historians in here would know what those are. But I used to skate from Imperial Beach all the way to Main Street in Chula Vista to find a drainage ditch. I'd drink a gallon of water and hang out all day, to skate all day. I'd bring socket wrenches, you know, the whole thing. You know, I had nowhere to go. But I love skating every weekend. You know, look at me now, you can like, he'll fall. But and I probably would right now. But you know, skating's important to me. It's a activity that we have at the beach, whether the beach is closed or open. You know, people still skate. And just let everybody know we're listening to you. You know, Veronica Archer. You know, thanks for your dedication. Emily, Death Zone. You know, that resonated with me. You know, because when it gets so crowded, I mean, really, it is like, okay, I didn't get hit that time, but whoa, okay, I got hit that time. Because you see, people get nailed. Looking at space, Mr. Miller talking about hours, signage, and sound, which I completely respect. Paloma, access for all ages. You know, when that skate park first opened, I used to go there with my son, who was Kane's age. He was, I don't know how old he was, 5, 6 years old. And Mr. Fernandez's son, Joe, this big kid, took my young son and said, hey, listen, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to drop in. So, you know, there's that camaraderie there, you know, for all ages, and it needs to be accessed for all ages. You know, we need security, some sort of security, or people there that check in often. Noise, definitely a factor. Sight lines, definitely yes. I like to look at this as it's our responsibility to do it right. And I like to think about, what if I live next door? How would I want it done? So that's how I'm going to be on this board or be on this panel up here. As a city council member, I'm going to kind of pretend I live next door. And I want to make sure it's done right for all the neighbors and the whole community. But it has to be done right. It's our responsibility that it's done right the first time. And I support this, and I think we should move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Mr. West.
So we live in San Diego, Dogtown, Z-Boys. This is where it's all begins. I mean, this is what we're talking about. And
that was Venice.
Well, it was Venice, but a lot of it was here too. They definitely got here. I think that we have to realize that sports are changing. I mean, we have a society out there that builds huge football fields and huge baseball fields. And guess what? Things are different now. We need to share. It needs to be about the same size. I really believe this. My sister, who I love very much, has been in a long-term relationship with a man who designs skate parks. And I talked to him. As soon as I got the word from Ms. Schultz, you've mentioned, you've reached out to me, and Mary too, and I appreciate it. And he's like, well, you know, dealing with noise is something that every skate park has got to figure out. And one of the ways that is an ingenious way of looking at it is not building a wall or building a barrier. What they're talking about is they're actually filming. They put in a permanent projector into these parks that is constantly filming it, and then they're videotaping it up onto walls where you are actually getting real-time look into these parks that anybody can see. And you know what? The skaters love it. Guess why? Because they get to look at their tricks afterwards. They get to see, oh my God, I messed this up. But it actually allows you to see who these culprits really are, who are the people who are breaking rules. So it's a very interesting way to look at things and provide some data. And great, let's think about it. Let's see, Dakota, you finally nail your trick you've been working on. Guess what? We got it on the city. You could come and get a picture too, and we could probably figure out a way to make that a revenue generating thing for our city. So these are I think we need to look at things differently about how we have been doing it in the past. And also I would say that, you know, the skate parks today, you know, they got picnic benches in them. They got places for families to come. They're not just a bowl and a couple tricks. They really are bringing an entire family to go down there and spend a day at the skate park. So I think I am completely in favor of making sure that we establish a committee that looks at this, and I think we should have all members of the community involved in it, because this is a treasure for our community. And thank you, Mrs. Bragg, before we started, giving me a little bit of a input on some things. Well, I will talk about my concern. Really, I think our fence serves less of a good than it does. It actually is detrimental. And I don't want to bore people, but there's a lot of studies out there that say when you put people behind a fence, they do bad things. For instance, Dakota, isn't there a hole in the fence right now that they're actually going in and out of? You can't confirm nor deny. So, yes. Yeah. Well, we fixed it, but all I'm saying is that when you put no matter if we can see you behind that fence, when you put people behind a fence, they do bad things. And there's a lot of studies out there, and I spent the day reading about fencing and how it is actually detrimental to skate parks. So, and that's why they're moving away from those and making them open so people can see in there and families can be a part of it. So I am very interested, and I would be more than willing to help, you know, be a part of this. Well, obviously I'm going to be a part of it here, but let's look at these things in a little bit differently. And I think these are some ideas. So I support.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you. And first of all, thank all of you for being here and seeing how this actually works. Now that you are here and looking at all of us, I feel really old because we were talking about the U.S. Open Sandcastle Committee. I was on that original committee way back in the day when it was an event that brought 300,000 people. But we're still having it, you know, it's still going on. I was a part of this, of the Mr. Fernandez, you may remember, my son Jeff, Mr. Pendergraft as well. My son and I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort on this project. It is very near and dear to our hearts. My son came home one day after tearing up that wooden skate park. His hands were bleeding. I said, Jeffy, what have you been doing? Oh, Mom, I'm down there working at the skate park. I held a yard sale and raised money to donate to the formation of our skate park because let's face it, we didn't have any money. So I had a yard sale and donated $600 so that we could have a skate park. I was on the original council that voted, and yes, it was a hard fight. And my council colleague at that time who fought with me to have this was Fred McLean. Oh. And you remember very well, it was his passion too. Fred and I, it was, and it did not, it was not a unanimous vote. We fought really hard for it. The skate park was designed by the users. So that was the input that, you know, it was the kids and the community said, this is what we want. We took that to the design team. And it is small, but it was based on the amount of money we had. But it was always thought of that it was just going to be the first phase. We always thought that, and always hoped and dreamed that we would at some point have a second phase. As far as the neighbors in the area, we've heard your concerns, and I've kind of written them down too. And kind of a slogan that I've come up with for this committee could be a better skate park, a better neighborhood. And that's what we're hoping for, because it is part of the neighborhood. It's embedded in the neighborhood. And along with that are the neighbors and the homeowners. So the issues that we've identified are the safety, lighting, noise, sound abatement. We talked about the recreation alignment when the beach is closed. And yes, people in this community are always looking to surf something. So if the beach is closed, they're going to surf concrete. And I get that. And my grandson is a skater there. And the newest trick he has just completed learning and pulled it off was a shifty. I'm not sure what that is, but his uncle Jeff told him, way to go, and has now assigned him another higher trick to learn. Speaking of skating, the last time I skated, I broke an elbow. So I hope you all wear your pads. I've always been an advocate for padding and helmets. And speaking of old skateboards and things, there is in my garage, along with a lot of other things, is a wooden skateboard. And it's a relic, but we just can't seem to part with it. So maybe someday I'll bring it out and display it, and you guys can really see what it looks like back in the day. It's important that we work on this as a community. That's what I love about Imperial Beach. There's an issue. This room is almost at capacity because this is an issue close to our hearts, just like if it's the swimming pool or beach closures. So I'm hoping that all of you can come together and actually come up with solutions. That's what we're looking for. You know, we had a meeting not too long ago about cannabis. And again, with the same amount of respect, whether you were for or against, we're looking for solutions. So for you younger people, I just want to thank you for being here, taking time out of your evening. You could be at home doing something else or out skating, but you're here. You want to be a part of it. And we're hearing that loud and clear. So I suggest we move forward as well.
Great. Thank you. And thanks for everyone coming out. We counted 30 cards, all in favor. So that's great. I want to thank Mrs. Archer. Thank you so much for all your organizing and all the parents and kids for coming out. Let's give you guys a round of applause. It's really important. So, you know, I think Mr. Patton, you're a year older than me, but we grew up skating and surfing at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. We're the same age. Yeah. Anyway, you know, I still got my GNS Fiberflex with Bennett trucks and Road Rider wheels I bought in 1976 at Hanson Surf Shop. So I learned to skate over on 1400 block of Hemlock Avenue. We used to skate Oliver IB, and then just like Mr. Patton, searching for drainage ditches. Back then, there were the first iteration of skate parks, at Spring Valley, at Del Mar. I'm trying to think where the other ones were. Home Avenue, we got over by the 94, and then under Mission Valley, remember, under the freeway. So then they all got closed down. My kids grew up skating with Dakota and then Mr. Fernandez's son, Joe. And when they come back from college now, what they say is they're amazed by how good the level of skating in IB is. They're like, wow, all these little kids that were little, when we were little groms, have really gotten good. My whole thing about skateboarding is I want kids from IB to represent the United States of America in the Olympics. That's what I want. That's what I want. We should have, and there's no reason, you know what? There's no reason why we can't. This city for too long has said we're second best or third best, and we don't deserve what Carlsbad have, Santa Barbara has, but now what Linda Vista has, what Chula Vista has, and frankly, Wyoming has. Wyoming has better skate parks than California. Colorado has better skate parks than California. New Mexico has better skate parks than California. My kids and I and my wife would travel around Wyoming and Colorado up to see my wife's folks. We'd travel to skate parks. We'd go hiking and then skate in the afternoons, and love skating with a bunch of cowboy skateboarders in Wyoming. That was awesome. But
Mayor, you think it's hard to skate? Try teaching your horse to skate.
Anyway, but I talk to skaters there. The same thing that we had to go through. Those skate parks are all a product of kids organizing with their parents and making sure that we all have equal access to recreational opportunities. And the fact is, because of pollution problems that we don't cause, and the also resultant decrease in property taxes, this city has lost out in revenues to invest in recreational opportunities. So you kids are paying the price for what's going on the border. And just like with a pool, we're going to demand that we get our fair share of revenues to invest back in our kids. So this city and the city council have made our #1 priority to invest in kids and families and make sure everyone has equal access to recreational opportunities. And more importantly, to make sure that you guys can get on the Olympic team, because I want to come watch. But and that should be our goal, to make sure we have a world-class and gold medal skate park, and make sure that our kids have every other opportunities, every other kids in the country. So anyway, with that, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Please vote.
That's on. There goes. Yep.
Great. You want to?
Thank you. No, I just have one question with all this technical people in the room and all these legends up here on the dais. In my garage, my son has a skateboard that has like 8 wheels on it. What's that called?
Rollerblade.
No, it's like a skateboard, but it's got 8 wheels on both sides, and it never stops.
It's a homemade.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
I don't think we don't got a vote. We got a problem. So then, is there a problem?
Can we get an oral vote, please?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you so much. And you guys can feel free to hang out unless you want to hear a financial report. But anyway, thank you so much. And now we have item 5.2. I'll let everybody.
Look, the whole place. I know.
Just all do the organizing outside.
Yeah.
And remember, guys, this is just a start. We have a long way to go.
Yeah, don't.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So now we have resolution number 2018-7911 declaring April as Environmental Awareness Month in the city of Imperial Beach. And Mr. Chris Helmer, the Environmental and Natural Resources Director, will give the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Council. This is our annual proclamation in recognition of April and Earth Day and all the good things that are going around in our community, going around our region. We recognize April as Environmental Awareness Month. It's a good time just to highlight a few of the items that we're doing. Your announcements actually at the beginning of the meeting, more than I have on my own list that we put here. I just made one page of some of the good stuff we're working on. Things to point out, we're having our Creek Debate cleanup, April 21st. Couple of cleanup sites around our region as well. City participating in that. Most importantly, we have our annual our annual citywide garage sale. That's going to be April 28th. I'm always amazed how popular that is every single year. I considered getting rid of it one year, and the community rose up and said, heck no. So we have that back, and every year it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm sure we'll have somewhere between 120, 150 more residents participating in that. The weekend after that, the first weekend in May, that's the city's annual home front cleanup. That's when if you have any junk in your yard or any electronic waste or any debris that you want to get rid of that you need to take to the dump, take it to Marfa High School. EDCO has a huge dumpster set up there. They also have some free mulch for you guys as long as supplies last. We get probably over 1,000 loads of people dropping off things. And that when the city first implemented, we brought on EDCO, that really helped clean up this community. The city gets better every single year. This is just one of the few things that we do. The city's also in the process of redesigning Imperial Beach Boulevard. I think the major renovation project having Imperial Beach Boulevard. We got 2 activities going on in the month of April to hear input from the community. One is the chamber breakfast that we'll be having. That's on April 26th. And we'll also be at the farmers market on April 20th. There'll be also multiple other opportunities for the community to get input. We're going to make this really nice. Ivy Boulevard is going to change the feel of this community. Doing our local coastal program update, or LCP, continually seeking input. That's being led by our community development department. Every one of you guys are involved in it. A lot of folks in the community are involved in it. We'll keep seeking input till the end of the year, but that's a really important one we're doing. And then finally, we also have a bunch of new murals going up around town starting in April. I hear the IB Arts Bureau and this group Pangea Seed are going to be doing a tour of them on April 21st. That sounds ambitious to get it done, but I'm looking forward to hearing more information. Information is to be determined on that, but plan on having some new murals coming around the community. I think that'll probably be some nice input on that. So council's doing a good job. This community is doing a good job. There's a lot of good environmental things to be celebrating this community. So this is a good annual one to keep recognizing. So with that, thank you very much.
Great. Any questions, comments? Mr. Patton?
Maybe Mr. West can answer you, but the murals, what are they going to be of? You know, it's not going to be SpongeBob SquarePants like running down the street. I mean, what's it going to be?
So they're all ocean themed. With there are 3 different murals. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't do that. There are 3 different murals. One is actually there's 4 murals because the IB Arts Bureau is doing one on the bicycle on the Flamingo Way bicycle path. One is reflects the eastern the leopard sharks that were actually killed in our estuary last year. There's a mural that's going to have reflect all that, and then there'll be one that's got the Pacific green turtle that will be affecting, and another one will be a brown pelican, and they'll all reflect on ocean murals. And I can send you guys the pictures. They meet the mission of our city to be that's the reflection of, to meet a coastal the mission of our city. They're alive now, but these are the ones we're reflecting on, the ones that were lost during the closing of the mouth of the river.
And you said there's a flamingo?
Not a flamingo. I said a pelican.
Oh, pelican. Okay.
It's on Flamingo Way.
Got it.
Great.
Next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Helmer. I want to thank you for your leadership as well. The city's an environmental leader, and a lot of it has to do with the work you're doing, especially in the Tijuana River Valley. And I drop your name all the time. And, you know, Chris Helmer, everyone seems to know you. So anyway, it's great. So you're doing a great job. And we appreciate the work of the city council and our city staff and all our residents and environmental stewardship. Did you want to say? Oh, okay, great. All right. With that, do we need to approve? I guess, so I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2017-7911. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
And just for clarification, that was 2018-7911. I think it was 20.
Oh,
mentioned 2017.
So okay. Right. And now we have item 5.3, biannual investment report presented by Chandler Asset Management. Interim Finance Director Smith will give the presentation. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor Dedina, and members of the council. Actually, I'm not giving the presentation.
If I could interrupt for just a minute, one of the things we wanted to point out to you is that the title for item 5.3 on the regular agenda was misprinted, and this is the item for 5.3. Okay. Just wanted to point that. Thank you.
Yeah, the original thing that you received was just for 1 month, and Jenny will be presenting that quarterly overview of everything. So I'd like to turn the time over now to Jenny Linkowitz, who will give you a presentation on the performance that the Chandler has achieved for the city in the last 6 months during the quarter. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you for inviting Chandler Asset Management to present the city's quarterly investment update. I'm going to start out with an economic overview and discuss some of the events that have been happening in the economy, and then I'll follow that up with a review of the portfolio. So feel free to please ask questions anytime you like. I want to first start talking about, I'm going to go to slide 3 here. This economic update was printed in February, but I do have some updates. You may have noticed a little bit of volatility in the markets recently, in the equity markets in particular, but it's also had an impact on fixed income as well. And part of the reason for that, I just want to shed a little bit of light on it, was we recently got a new Fed chair, and that's Jerome Powell, and he just started in early February to replace Janet Yellen. And so that was one of the things that spooked the market a little bit. The market doesn't like any uncertainty at all. And we don't believe that he's going to be fundamentally different than Chair Yellen in regards to policy, but the market's afraid of any kind of change that could be happening. And in addition to that, we also happen to have 4 vacant seats on the Fed Board of Governors out of 7 right now. So that's a pretty significant percentage. So the market's also a little bit nervous about whether new appointees, new nominees to those positions could be a little more hawkish versus dovish. And obviously higher interest rates could stall the economy, which has been growing at a nice clip. So that's one of the things going on. And we've also seen a pickup in wage growth recently. That was another thing that started to worry the markets a little bit, that there might actually be some inflation starting to happen. It's been really low for a long time. So that's one of the things that they were looking at as well. But the Fed has a dual mandate, obviously, when they're making these rate hike decisions. And one of the things that they're looking at is full employment. That's one of their goals. So the chart on the left shows non-farm payrolls, the number of jobs that are added every month. And you can see that for the month of February, we had a stellar 313,000 jobs added to the economy. I like to look at the 6-month rolling average because it shows it's obviously a very volatile number. You can see the hurricanes in September and some things had an impact. So we've been adding about 204,000 jobs a month. So that's extremely healthy. And as a result, the chart on the right shows, the dark green line shows that we're basically at full employment. We've been sitting at about 4.1% unemployment for the last several months, and that's really a positive. The underemployment rate is the light green line on the top. That's a little bit higher than what the Fed would like to see, sitting at about 8.2%. But part of the reason it's been ticking up is because the participation rate has actually been increasing. So that's a positive. People are entering the job market who had been on the sidelines, and so they're hopeful that they'll be able to find a job this time. So in addition to looking at employment, the Fed is also targeting stable prices. So we have a couple different ways that we can measure inflation and price changes. And the one on the left is the one you probably heard the most about, CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And the dark green line shows the headline number that's sitting at about 2.2% for February. And the light green number is the core that takes out the volatile food and energy components. That was sitting at 1.8 for February. So in general, if someone asks you how much is inflation in regards to CPI, we're looking at about 2% on the average. The Fed, however, prefers to look at the PCE, core PCE number. And that's the light green line on the right, and that's sitting at about 1.6%. So that's still quite low. You can see it spiked up a little bit earlier, but it's really been stubbornly low, lower than the Fed would like to see. Their goal is to have that at 2%. So that's what we're looking at right now. We did have a question that was forwarded to me about inflation in regards to San Diego County in particular. And they have a CPI measurement actually. And while the nationwide average is about 2%, San Diego County inflation is about 3%. So you may have noticed, I mean, a lot of the component is rents and things like that. And those have obviously been very high. So it's a little bit higher than the national average. So another thing the Fed is looking at when they're making their rate hike decisions is the consumer. So the chart on the left shows retail sales, and that's been an improving story over the past couple of years. And you can see during the holidays, it was obviously very strong. And in February, when it usually drops off quite a bit, we still had a 4% improvement over 2017. So that's still quite positive. And on the right, we have consumer confidence, which is sitting at the highest level we've seen since 2000. So 130.8. So that's quite positive. And hopefully that continues. For a broader view, we can look at some leading indicators. The LEI, a chart on the left, if that goes negative for 2 or 3 periods, then that's a concern that we could be at risk of a recession. But you can see although it's been volatile with the hurricanes and things, it is still quite positive and it's been trending upwards. The chart on the right, the Chicago Fed National Activity Index, is another measure that looks at 85 different indicators. And if you see this go above 0.7, that might be a risk of the economy overheating and maybe having some inflation. And if it goes below 0.7, which is off this chart as well, that would be a risk of recession. You can see it's right in the Goldilocks zone and it's been trending upwards. So it's all signs of a very healthy economy. Now, a major component of these charts is the housing market. This is probably something you're all very, very familiar with. You can see it's been very strong in general. We've got housing starts. They came down a little bit in February, but they were up almost 10% in January. I mean, that's huge. And especially off of some of the already high prices that we're seeing. The Case-Shiller number on the right shows 20 city index from major cities across the country. And that's sitting at 6.4% for January. So that's very impressive. And I looked up San Diego as well, just out of curiosity, and that's sitting at about 7.4%. So San Diego prices are obviously a little bit higher than the other 20 cities in general. We can also take a look at manufacturing, and you can see that's been an improving story as well. Where it's sitting at 59%, and for the ISM number, and industrial production was at 4.4% for February. So really good improvements in manufacturing. Capacity utilization shows how much slack is left in manufacturing. That's sitting about 78%, and the average is closer to 80. So there still is a little bit of room for improvement in manufacturing, but that's been improving quite a bit and putting more people back to work, quite frankly. That all adds up into the GDP number. So overall GDP for 2017 was 2.3%, a healthy amount of growth. The biggest contributor, as usual, the chart shows on the left, is the consumer. That's by far the largest. And it was dragged down a little bit in the fourth quarter by the trade deficit increased rather sharply at that time. But just looking forward, given some of the tailwinds we may get from tax reform and corporate earnings and things like that, we're expecting about 2.5% growth and healthy growth again for 2018. We're not seeing a risk of recession based on all this data for the next 6 to 12 months. So it seems like things are going to, but we are keeping an eye on things, obviously. I mean, higher interest rates could take a toll eventually. So we're going to keep an eye out for that. So speaking of interest rates and how they impact your portfolio, we've got slide 11 that shows what's been happening with bond yields. And you can see that they've moved up quite a bit. And it's a good story for the portfolio, because that means that every time we're making a new investment, we're able to invest at higher levels, and that gives you more income in general. We've got the 10-year treasury on the left in gold, and that's sitting at 2.8%. The 5-year in the light green line is at 2.6%. And the 2-year is the most important one for your portfolio, because it most closely matches the portfolio's average life, is about 2.3%. Now, one thing you'll notice is there's not a big difference between the 2-year and the 10-year treasury right now. So the yield curve is rather flat. So you don't get a huge reward for going out longer term in the market. And that's illustrated on the chart on the right. You can see the light green line shows what rates looked like last year. And you can see short-term rates were very low and long-term rates were much higher. And the gold line shows what they are most recently. So you can see it's a lot flatter. The long-term rates aren't that much different than they were last year, but the short-term rates are much higher. And that's the result of the Fed rate hikes. So the Fed hiked interest rates by 3 times in 2017, a quarter point each. And they hiked again in March, as expected, another quarter point. And we're expecting at least another 2 rate hikes this year. So we'll still see that front end of the yield curve continue to go up, and that'll cause yields to continue to rise, at least on the front end of the curve. And we'll also be looking to see what the impact of the Fed balance sheet unwind will have on longer term rates as well. But one thing is for sure, we're expecting a lot of volatility to continue. So we'll take a look at what impact that has in your portfolio. And I just want to start off by just reviewing the objectives that we have for the portfolio. The first one is safety. Second is liquidity when the city needs it. And the third is yield, is the third consideration after the first 2 requirements have been met. The portfolio is measured against the Bank of America Merrill Lynch 1 to 3-year U.S. Treasury Index. And to achieve the objective, Chandler invests in high-quality bonds consistent with your investment policy and California code. And we have a compliance report that shows that we're in compliance. This shows all the limitations that we're required to follow in accordance with both the city's investment policy and California code put together. And we have a dedicated compliance staff. We also have systems that conduct pre and post-trade compliance to make sure it's always in line. Okay, we can take a look at the portfolio characteristics. And this contrasts the portfolio. The column on the right is from November 30th. And then the middle column is from February 28th. And then the column on the left is the benchmark. So the average maturity has gotten quite a bit shorter, and the duration as well. You can see we went from a duration, which is a measure of interest rate risk in your portfolio. So when interest rates are rising, the longer your duration, the more volatility you're going to have in the prices. So we had to go from 1.8 in November to 1.6 in February. So that's about 91% of the benchmark duration. And there's a couple reasons why we're a little shorter. One is that we decided to take a defensive stance, because with rates rising, you don't want to stick out your neck out too far. The other thing is that we have to keep in mind the city's liquidity needs when we're investing at all times. Over the past few years that we've been managing the portfolio, there has been an occasional need for cash for projects, or to buy a fire truck or something, typically towards the end of the year. So we have to make sure that we have adequate liquidity, adequate maturities coming due to potentially cover some of those. So we're always keeping that in mind. Probably the most important metric on this slide is the average purchase yield. So this shows all the securities we purchased. If you take their weighted average, what your yield is if you hold everything to maturity. So this is what you're actually earning in terms of coupon income based on the price we bought the securities at. So you can see that's been increasing. If you look back a year ago, your purchase yield was 1.22%. In November, it increased to 1.4%. And at the end of February, it was 1.46%, and it's still increasing now because every time we have a maturity, we're investing at 2-3%. So it's a lot higher than it used to be. So it's making a huge impact on that. The average quality you can see is AA, very high quality, and the market value went from 18.513 million at the end of November to 18.461 million at the end of February. So that's down about $50,000, and it's important to recognize that that's not realized losses. Those are unrealized losses based on market movements. So we've had such a big move in interest rates, so that's causing the prices to be lower. But as long as we hold everything to maturity and don't have to force sell anything, those aren't going to be realized losses. Okay, what have we been buying with these securities? Slide 16 shows the different sectors that we invest in. And you can see we've got about 40% of the portfolio in agencies, 5.5% in auto and equipment ABS, asset-backed securities. We've got 4% in negotiable CDs, 2.4% in commercial paper. A quarter of the portfolio is invested in treasuries, and about 23% in high-quality U.S. corporates, and then just about 1% was in cash at that time. The biggest difference from the last quarter to the present quarter is during that time, corporate bonds, the risk premium we were receiving for purchasing corporate bonds or U.S. agencies was rather small. So we felt that was we weren't getting rewarded to take the extra risk. So the corporate exposure and the agency exposure was reduced during that time. And we've seen such a big spike in short-term rates. We've seen LIBOR rates, and we've seen with Fed funds rising, we've seen those rates come up so much. So given that, and also given the potential that the city might need money in the fall, we've taken some opportunities investing in short-term negotiable CDs and commercial paper as well. So those are some major changes that have occurred over the past quarter. Okay, the types of issuers we buy. This shows it's a diversified group of issuers. About 2/3 of the portfolio is invested in U.S. government securities. And in general, we keep the corporate and credit names diversified across both industries and different individual issuers. The biggest exposure to an individual credit is Bank of Nova Scotia Houston, sitting at about 2.5%. And the reason it's a little bit higher than the others, it's a very short-term security and it's very high quality. So we have a little bit bigger exposure there. There's about 2% invested in Qualcomm that's coming due in May. So that's coming due very soon. And the quality of the portfolio is mostly AA. The beige bar shows the previous quarter, and the dark green bars show February 28th data. And you can see the vast majority of the portfolio is invested in AA securities. This slide is governed by S&P ratings only. So that's why you see so much is AA, because the U.S. government's rated AA+ by S&P. So the majority of the securities are invested in that. And the non-rated portion on the right is AAA rated securities by Moody's and Fitch only, not by S&P. So those are auto and equipment ABS that make up that component. Okay, another slide I think is very key is showing the structure of the portfolio, the duration distribution on slide 19. And the green bar again is the most recent quarter, and the beige bar is the previous quarter. And the biggest thing you can see here is that the portfolio has gotten shorter, a little bit more defensive. So you can see that the biggest change has been that there's a lot more invested in the 6 month to 1 year part of the curve. But we try to keep it diversified, so we always have maturities coming due to take advantage of higher rates, and we also want to be able to invest a little bit longer term to take advantage of higher yields off the curve. So when we've been buying corporate bonds, it's nice to be able to actually get 3% on a corporate bond now if you can go out 4 years or so. Okay, then our report card is on slide 20, and the Chandler performance is the dark green bar, and we're compared against the benchmark, which is the beige bar, the Bank of America 1 to 3 year Treasury Index. And I just want to remind you that total return includes the interest payments that you receive, but it also includes unrealized gains and losses due to market movements. So that's one of the reasons why sometimes you'll see a negative there, but you're still receiving your coupon income. And as long as you hold things to maturity and don't have to sell in a forced sale situation, then that should end up being positive. You've been a client since July of 2013, so thank you for your business. And you can see since inception return was 0.78%. Now this is annualized. So if you look at it unannualized, it would be 3.63. And the benchmark returned 0.51%. And if you look at that on an unannualized basis, that's 2.35%. So we've outperformed by 0.27% since inception. Over the last 3 years, we've outperformed by 27 basis points. Over the last 2 years, by 0.32%. Over the last year, you can see the benchmark was a little bit negative, but you still had a positive return. So that was outperformance of about 0.36%. And then over the last 3 months, you can see on the chart that showed how interest rates spiked so much in the last 3 months, that had obviously a negative effect on some of the prices of the securities. So that's negative 0.25% total return versus the benchmark of negative 0.31%. Yes. This is unrealized as well as realized. So this actually combines both. Yeah, this is everything. So yeah, so if we're actually selling something at a gain or a loss, that'll be in there. But also if it's not even realized, then that's in there too. But the difference between a stock and a bond is the stock eventually, to get your money back, you have to sell. With a bond, you can just let it mature. So it's not necessary to necessarily take a loss as long as you don't have a credit situation. Okay, then we have the portfolio holdings for your review as well. And I just want to go over on the transaction report a little bit because I think this is pretty telling. You can see that it shows all the purchases that we've been doing over the past quarter. And there's just a big difference in the yield. If you look at the acquisition yield column in the middle, you can see that, we used to be buying things at less than 1% when rates were so low. And now we're actually able to invest new money, even very short term, and we're getting an average here of about 2.14%. So it's really improved. That's really going to do a lot for the income of the city. So I'd be happy to take any questions you might have right now.
I think you guys are doing a great job. My question every time has to do with how we emphasize safety to such a high degree, and this may be a function of our guidelines that we've provided you, but we emphasize it to such a high degree that we are actually losing principal to inflation. But I'm not arguing that we need to do anything about that now. What I'd like to do is to try to illustrate the amount involved here, not as a criticism because you're following your investment guidelines. That's something we need to look at. But as I've just done some rough calculations, and I'd like you to, correct me if I'm wrong. You talked about the general national inflation, roughly 2%. San Diego, about 3%. The average portfolio yield that you quoted earlier, up to now over the last over this reporting period is 1.46. The portfolio amount under management is 18.461 million. So the way I look at it in a simplified way, the average yield of 1.46 times that portfolio amount would be $269,530. This doesn't necessarily mean anything in the real world, but it's just for comparative illustrative purposes in terms of what different yield produced in terms of income to the city. So that 1.46 average portfolio yield, in theory, would produce $269,530. If we look at the 2% inflation rate and what that 2% rate, if we were earning 2%, for example, we would have earned 300 on that same balance of 18,461,000, 369,220 at 2%. At 3%, which is the real San Diego inflation rate, which is where we buy our goods and services and pay our salaries for this municipality. 3% applied to that portfolio is 553,830. That's almost a $300,000 difference from the average portfolio. And even at 2%, it's about $100,000 difference. In other words, I think we can quibble with the numbers. We can talk about the different periods that it applies to, etc. But the reality seems to me that we are not keeping up with inflation. And if we look at inflation that we're really facing in our community, in this broader San Diego region, we are a few $100,000 down the drain every year. And so I just point that out. If you have a correction to that, I think that's fine. But numbers are numbers. And I know we have a great desire to preserve our principle, but we're not preserving our principle if it's declining in real value by somewhere between $100,000 and $300,000 a year. And it means that we, I think, need some professional advice and an agenda item to take a look at whether or not we can at least match inflation, not lose, that kind of money from our portfolio, because our principal emphasis is safety when it's not really safe. And if inflation is increasing, it's just going to get worse because our yields in the portfolio are always going to lag the reality, because you've got several years of maturity in the portfolio, and by the time you can renew that, inflation has already moved forward. So following this approach, even with the rising interest rates, and as you said, we'll get higher yields, we're still going to, assuming inflation is one of the reasons why those yields rise. That's hitting us right now with current purchases, but the portfolio won't catch up to that for another couple of years. So that, to me, those are just basic numbers, and it raises the issue of not criticism to your management, but perhaps criticism of our guidelines that are forcing us to lose money and to continue to lose money, and it's been going on for a long time. We take this back several years, you can multiply those 6-digit numbers by years, and that's essentially real loss compared to what we need to spend our money on for our community. I'm not saying that we switch and invest in stock and assume great risk. We probably need to think about some tweaks as opposed to wholesale changes. But I think it's our responsibility to our public to think about what those tweaks ought to be. We need to have some expertise and some guidance and some options. There's too much money involved for us to just keep on doing the same thing.
If I can clarify one thing, I think what you're saying is that the portfolio has not lost value, but our finances have lost purchasing power. I don't want to give anybody the impression that we haven't had increase. I mean, we've had increase, but we're losing purchasing power when compared to inflation. Is that the point? Okay. I just don't want anyone to have the impression that our portfolio is actually losing.
Mhm. Well, I do have a few comments. Just thank you for those for that analysis. There's different ways to measure inflation, and it really depends on what you're buying, what your actual, you'd have to really customize it for yourself. So there's so many different ways to look at it. I do want to point out the Fed's preferred metric for inflation is the core PCE, sitting at 1.6%, and you're very close to that. And that's a national number. That's not just San Diego, and obviously San Diego is likely going to be higher just because of rents and things like that here that we're dealing with. I mean, there's two ways to get more yield in your portfolio. And one would be to extend the portfolio to a longer duration and take more interest rate risk. And one thing I just want to point out is I work very closely with the finance director regarding cash flow needs. Every fall, the portfolio tends to need to draw down on some years. So we have to be cognizant of that, of the duration of your liabilities. I mean, a lot of the funds that are sitting there are to be used for projects. And to get 3%, if that's the goal, to get 3%, a 30-year treasury is yielding about 3% right now. I mean, can you imagine buying a 30-year treasury? And the other thing is corporate bonds. You can get 3% buying high-quality corporates. You're limited by a couple things. You have to have at least a single A category rating. So you can't buy junk bonds. You can't buy, very risky assets in terms of that. And you're also limited to 30% by state code. So that's not something that your policy can relax any more than it already is. So we definitely look for opportunities to buy corporate bonds whenever we can, because we recognize that they're a great way to diversify the portfolio. And actually now in the market, we're starting to see a little bit more of a risk premium. So we're actually starting to buy more corporates for your portfolio now. But we didn't want to buy them as much when they were expensive, because then you'd have more of a loss, an unrealized loss sitting there. So we want to make sure we're buying things when it's the most opportunistic time to buy. And I just want to point out too that inflation, it does drive interest rates, but we're also another major factor is supply and demand for securities. And there's a lot of cash out there chasing too few securities. So that's basically driving interest rates down. So everybody's got this problem, not just the city of Imperial Beach. I mean, investors, people are trying to retire and they're having a hard time getting enough interest to retire. If you put your money at the bank, I mean, you're just not earning enough to do that. So you're not the only one in this situation. And we definitely, can appreciate that. And we want to do, get the highest yield we can for you. And, I just want to emphasize that you have been making considerably more than investment, a comparable investment in Leif would have been by taking extra, by having extra duration in your portfolio. So it's helped you over time. But now that we're seeing interest rates rise so quickly, Leif is obviously about a 6-month duration. Your portfolio is, 1.6 years. So like you said, it takes a little bit of time for that to catch up. So, and we're definitely working, to make sure that we do that as quickly, but also, not taking any undue risks as well. We want to make sure that we're, protecting the principal as well.
Good, Councilmember Rock.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, maybe you can answer this question. I know a while back was my suggestion that we have a budget development committee, and unfortunately we lost our finance director. Can you give us the status on that? And is this something that they would be considering? Would you have been considering this to be included as part of our budget development?
Well, for sure. I think that committee would be able to dive into the weeds a little deeper than we would do in a meeting like this. He was in the process of setting that up. I think you guys were aware of that. I would imagine that the new administrative services director, that would be something that we would make sure that they carry on with. I think it's important because, again, this stuff is very difficult to talk about in this setting, because you try to pull out a couple of numbers and put a spotlight on them, and our economy is just more complex than that. And so it'd be helpful if we had that committee and could actually dive down in like we looked at tonight. There's at least 3 different ways that we saw tonight to calculate inflation. Well, which one actually makes the most sense for us? Like you say, housing doesn't impact us because we don't rent housing, but it impacts San Diego's interest rate a lot. So what we really want to do is we want to start to look at What are the important inflation factors that affect a municipality, and are we staying ahead of that? That's really hard to do in a meeting like this, and I think that that's what Councilman Spriggs is trying to drill to, and it's hard to do unless we sit down and really decide what are the factors on inflation that really impact the municipality, and is our portfolio keeping up with those factors? We're using national numbers or even San Diego numbers that are difficult to do in a setting like this. So absolutely, I think that, long story short, I think that committee makes a lot of sense moving forward.
Great.
Okay, plus with that highlighted direction on taking like you said, a deeper dive into this and the gains that we could possibly see, maybe with some advice, you know.
When we've talked to the city council about some strategies that we feel are way ahead of any investments that you can do, and I think you're aware of those, and you know, that's why we want to make sure that in the future we're discussing these kinds of things with you, because there's sometimes there's better ways to spend our money than to invest it in these longer term bond analysis.
Great, thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to receive and file the reports submitted by Chandler Asset Management. Motion.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Before we move on, Mr. Mayor, is there a sense that we can either by subcommittee or by workshop or by agenda item in the future take that deeper dive with my colleague into this? It's not a trivial matter. One of my jobs when I was at UCSD was to make sure that our millions of dollars in student fees were inflation based. So we had this debate. What is our cost structure? Point you made. What are we buying? How do we construct a fee that addresses university expenses for operating a university? And we had to take into consideration faculty salaries and all kinds of other things that were on the rise, and come up with a way to, and we always assessed it every 3 years or so. Were we using the right inflation rate for our fees? So it's not just our city. It's not just me blowing smoke. These are real dollars for real expenses, and like the students who paid those fees, they deserve to have value for what they paid. And it's the same with our taxpayers in our community.
Okay. Item 5.4, request for authorization for the city manager to execute a lease of the parking lot owned by the Unified Port of San Diego, located on the northeast corner of the Seacoast Drive and Oakwood Street in Imperial Beach. City Manager Hall will give the presentation.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted, I think I've briefed most of you on this item, and what staff is recommending tonight is that in one of the things that is a constant that you hear from neighbors and people visiting our community is the challenges with parking, especially near the beach. And one of those frustrations that get raised on a pretty regular basis is that the neighborhood streets tend to fill up more quickly than some of those lots that require payment, such as the port parking lot located at Elkwood and Seacoast Drive. So one of the things that we've been talking about with the city council is whether or not we could secure a lease, for lack of a better term. They would call it a temporary use, but we'll call it a lease for tonight. It's easier to understand. A lease of the Elkwood parking lot from the port, so that the city can then provide free parking in that lot, so that the first place that would fill up in that neighborhood would be the port parking lot rather than the streets and the areas in front of the homes. Now, on busy days, there's still going to be parking likely in front of those homes, but at least the city council is responding to what they're hearing from some of the neighbors, which is, gee, can you help us out with some parking? This will at least open that up. It seems like the paid lots are the last to fill up and the neighborhoods are the first. Maybe this would help reverse that trend a little bit, and we can get the parking lots to fill up first, and then the neighborhoods would be more of the overflow situation. So again, it's not very complicated. What we're asking for is authorization to enter into that lease. There's still a couple things we're working through with them. There were some great things raised by council members in your briefings about no overnight parking, no RV parking. You know, all the parking stalls in there are really for single vehicles. So nothing on trailers, no overnight parking, no RVs, no tailgating. Some of those were great suggestions, and we're working those through at the port to make sure that we can regulate that. Once that's done, we would like to enter into a lease. It's essentially $400 a month. It's about $5,000 a year, and we can provide that parking for free on most cases. The one time it wouldn't be is we have set that aside for any port or city activities like the Sun and Sea Festival that was talked about tonight or Symphony by the Sea. We can reserve that lot for parking for the needs of either the sheriff department, the city, the participants. And so anyway, we think that it might be a response to some of the parking things that the city council continues to hear.
Great, any discussion?
With more use, and particularly people parking at night, that implies we probably have to do more patrolling. And how do we factor that into this cost equation, for example?
Yeah, the best thing, I suppose the best thing about we would want to keep, that's a good point. We want to keep the parking times the same as we have on the other public parking in the area, which is you can park anytime from 5 a.m. to midnight, but the lot would be closed from midnight to 5 a.m. And so we would simply make sure that we would engage the sheriff just like we do in the other parking lots in Dunes Park or other areas. And if there's parking after midnight, they would receive citations and perhaps even removal of the vehicle if it stays for any length of time. But we would not allow overnight parking. That's a good point.
Great. If no more questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the lease of the parking lot owned by the Port of San Diego, located on the northeast corner of Seacoast Drive and Aqua Street in Imperial Beach.
Second.
Please vote. I know we have a representative of the port here. Thank you so much for your support in working this out.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thanks, Ron.
Great. Now we have item 5.5, FY 2018 and FY 2019 CIP 2-year implementation plan report. Public Works Director Vincentelli will give the presentation. And I just wanted to thank you for your comment. Your excellent presentation at the Seacoasters the other day was really passionate and really good presentation.
No problem. It was exciting. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Today I'll be giving an update on the FY 18 and 19 CIP. As you may or may not know, we had 35 projects currently listed in the amended CIP budget. I've passed out a document. It's a little easier to see in front of you there, just kind of showing you where some of these projects are located. As of today, about 14 of those projects are completed. 5 projects are in the construction phase, 10 projects in design, and we got 6 more to start. I guess this document you're looking at here kind of shows you these projects affect all over town, where we're doing work everywhere in the next year and a half here. I did get some good news. The Elm Avenue Improvements Project was awarded the ASC San Diego Section 2017 Outstanding Project Award. We just found that out within the last few weeks. So we're very excited about that. We'll be going and receiving that award, I believe, either end of the month or early next month. So that's very exciting. That was a project that was completed late last fiscal year. Let's say that. Other projects that have been kind of completed recently is the Imperial Beach Dog Park. We did some additional improvements there, extended new fencing along the south edge. The new dog bone benches are in. We've got one last piece of work to do there. It's the drinking fountain. Those are very cool, yeah. The drinking fountain is still to come. We've purchased the material. We are going to work with the contractor doing the park restroom project to install that, because the park restroom will be we need to install a water line from that facility to feed that drinking fountain. We can't just pull it off an irrigation line or anything like that. So we're working with those folks to see when we can get the line installed as part of that project, and it'll just run right to the park, and we'll have a nice dog and human drinking fountain there. So it'll be very cool.
What do you do with the chain link fencing?
Oh, we put it up somewhere else. No, I'm just kidding. It's gone.
The trailer park.
It was falling apart. Those trees really beat it up. Other projects that are currently underway are just about finishing up. The senior center, we did work there involving, let me get my list, roofing, painting, new furniture, I think, is on the way as well. Very excited. It came out very nice. Our crew in-house did some of the kitchen work there, and it just really came out very nicely done. We're very proud of that work. Other projects in the parks, we had the Bicentennial Triangle landscape is officially done. We're going to be opening, and we have a nice little ribbon cutting hopefully here in May, and you'll see it's kind of in the maintenance phase. The contractor's pulling weeds and making sure that the plants that are supposed to grow. So that came out very nice. The art team came in and did that work on that bench there, and it came out very well. Other projects that you will be seeing soon, we have a groundbreaking will be scheduled later this month, but the park restroom project that I mentioned earlier is going to be underway as well. We have design underway on a major streets project. This is a paving project, so the roads here on this map, I know you get a sense of it, but the areas in green are going to be paved this summer, essentially, and the areas in blue will be paved by the end of the we're looking at the second paving project to happen sometime this fall/winter. Other projects under design is the Citrus Avenue improvements. We're looking for a design complete in fall and construction start not far after that. And that's a sidewalk improvement project, traffic calming, those kind of things. And obviously a street resurfacing. The big project, Imperial Beach Boulevard Enhancement Project. This is the $5.6 million in grant funding. This project will probably get up near the $7 million zone once we get the sewer improvements added in there and the fiber optic improvements as well. This is the project that I can't be more excited about. I'm going to show you in the next slide here shows kind of the, again, the project right now is, we're going to be getting 60% drawings by the end of the month. And that's really going to kick off the massive outreach program that we've got to go out to residents, other groups in town, and we'll get a lot cooler as far as the graphics we can show. But the area that is going to really get touched up is in from all of Imperial Beach Boulevard, from Seacoast to the very eastern edge of town. The area from Seacoast to 3rd is in front of the estuary there. We've got some exciting options there as far as widening the sidewalk and improving, adding a boardwalk / mixed use path. I'll go back to that slide, kind of showing, we options for benching, trees, new trash receptacles, bike parking. Very excited about the opportunity. We have a nice palette there between Seacoast and 3rd to do something really special in front of the estuary. Obviously the project will continue further east, and we're going to improve. The whole roadway is going to be kind of redone. New paving the whole way through, new sidewalks, new crosswalk at 12th and IB Boulevard is on the docket. New bike lanes. It's just going to be a complete reimagining of that street, and we're very excited to get that going. That project completing design by the end of summer, and we could see construction start early next year. Another project under design is the Palm Avenue Master Plan that's really focusing on the West End Gateway at this point, but that design is underway, and it will be complete by this winter. And then at some point, we'll have relinquishment of SR 75 will be an item that comes before council as well. Another project that I'm also very excited about, but that's because I'm a sewer guy, is the Coastal Campus Force Main. The Navy is not slowing down. They are blasting through their project. They intend to start sending us sewage as soon as July, potentially. So we're going to have to deal with that. And part of the way we're going to deal with that is to install a new force main from their entry, their south gate, all the way down IB Boulevard. All the way down Palm. It's a bright green on this image here, probably an 8-inch force main. And that project is extremely time sensitive. So we are pushing our engineers to go as fast as possible. We're going to be pushing Caltrans to let us do this work as fast as possible, because every month after July, we have a risk here. They've got sewage for us, and we've got facilities that cannot handle a lot of sewage. So once this gets in, and my hope is that we'll be complete in January or so, then they're connected up and ready to go. Exciting project, but it's going to be impactful, obviously. We're putting a pipeline down Palm Avenue. But it's the best way to deal with what we got coming our way. Other designs underway. The senior center design actually got new data on this one. They're much further along than 30%. We're at least 60%, and the engineering design complete is going to be not fall, but early summer. So I got good news on that today. So I didn't get this slide updated, but the design is moving along. If you don't like the returns you're getting on your money, another thing we can do is start to spend some of it on projects. So one of the things I'll be coming in the next month or so. We've got about 4 projects I'll be coming to you at some point here in the next month or so to talk about getting some funding for and adding them to the CIP. So running the CIP from 35 projects to 39. One of the projects will be a residential citywide streetlight infill project where we're trying to get lighting up. Basically on this, again, this is just very early on in the project. We're schematics at this point, but wherever you see a yellow mark on that is the spot that my predecessor saw as a location that a potential street light in town. And some of those are on existing poles, some of them are not. And that's where the cost comes in. If we've got to add a light and we've got to add the pole itself, it becomes more of a city cost. If it's just going on an existing pole, SDG&E kind of takes care of it. So this project is already underway. Hank is actually working with us now to walk the streets and figure out where we can drop these things and working with SDG&E to make this happen. They've already ordered some material. We'll start seeing lights very soon. But we're talking a major amount of work for SDG&E. This is an SDG&E project. It's not as if I hire a contractor and do this work. So there will be some expenditures on our part, but the bulk of it is an SDG&E project, but we do need to get it budgeted and make the project start to happen. So that is one I'll be asking about very soon. Another one that'll be coming up is the demo itself of Palm, the 495 Palm site. We've got to get in there and knock those buildings down. So that'll be a project we'll get a contract together and come to council and get an approval and knock them down. Civic Center renovations phase 2. This is going to be the improvements that you saw happen in the kind of the city manager's side of the city hall. We'd like to be doing that, doing those same improvements, at least the same scope on the eastern building portion of the building. So that's a significantly bigger area. It's going to take more time and more money, and it's going to be more impactful to staff as well. But we'd like to get that kind of scoped out, budgeted up, and then probably start seeing that work happen. I'm going to call it fall. Finally, this is just kind of a schematic showing the fiber optic. We've talked about this on other projects. Port District is partnering with us to get the fiber optic cable conduit installed as part of the Imperial Beach Boulevard project. It kind of it's represented here on that green line. They'll basically pay for that installation of that cable conduit wherever you see green here. So it comes all the way down Imperial Beach Boulevard, hence why we took it as part of the project. But it also comes up 9th, eventually ends up near my yard, the public work yard there next to the bikeway. We recognize opportunities here. If we're going to build a pipeline for the Navy, then, well, it makes kind of sense to run a conduit with that pipeline as part of the coastal campus line. So that orange portion of this kind of just shows us, go ahead and throw the conduit in the ground there as well, and have the Navy pay for it, because at the end of the day, this is their opportunity to figure out how they're going to coordinate the signals on Palm. Well, the way to do that is to run conduit between our signals and run that same conduit to my yard, and we'll have a computer system there, and we'll actually have a traffic control center at some point in the future. And the way to do that is anytime we're digging, we throw conduit in the ground. So this is the big picture, but at some point we will have to pay for a little bit of, I want to extend the conduits to my pump stations. The areas in purple are kind of where I might have to come to you for some funding to make sure that we get the infrastructure in while we're digging these things now. I probably won't be able to get the port to pay for everything. I'm gonna have to pay for a little bit of ours to make sure we get what we want. Those are the 4 projects that I'm looking to be adding, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that excellent presentation. Any questions? Mr. West?
One. Go back.
Sure.
I hear what you're saying. I'm happy to look at it further. It's not as if I'm the one picking these out specifically. It's a computerized
I know
kind of
it is.
program.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy to take a look at it. And obviously, my hope is that we can do even more. Depending on what the bids come in, maybe we can get a few more streets added.
Completely agree. I just
Okay.
take a drive.
No problem.
Thanks.
Going back to your slide on the force main.
Yes.
It's one you've handed out to us.
Yes.
I'm being kind of a sewer guy myself, with the Metro Wastewater Commission and all that stuff. We don't want all that stuff overflowing into Imperial Beach.
No.
I'm a little worried about when you mention one word, Caltrans. My ears perked up and I said, OMG, are we going to have trouble with Caltrans just getting routine approvals that are, essential for this in a timely way? And the thought also occurred to me at the same time is, where in the world are we on relinquishment? Two different aspects of the same problem.
The answer is yes. We'll have problems with Caltrans. But we know that. And I met with Caltrans today. Obviously, we wouldn't be considering this option if relinquishment wasn't coming. That's just the fact that it wouldn't be worth the trouble. So maybe Andy'd like to speak a little bit about relinquishment, and we'll let you know where we stand there.
Probably my answer may have a different tone. I had a chance to talk with Lori Berman, who is now actually the director of Caltrans at the state level, which is great for us. I had a chance to ask her whether or not we might be able to move our relinquishment project instead of in next year's what they call SHOP, which is basically their improvement program from this year, from next year to this year. She said that she would be reaching out to Joe Holt to make sure that happens. I told her about this project, told her we have to do this for the Navy. She said even if she had to pull high level strings, she'd make sure that this happens. She understands. She's very well aware of this project and what needs to happen, and we had it involved. Yeah, and Councilman Patton and I had a chance to talk to her, and when we were in Sacramento, so I feel good about that. Now I don't know I don't know if she's had a chance to talk to Joe, so I'll follow up again probably tomorrow and see where she's at.
Great. With that, thank you so much, Mr. Minicelli. Appreciate it, and thanks for all the good work. We really appreciate the business of the city is actually doing business and making things better. So thank you so much.
I have I have a request,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Minicelli,
Sorry.
if you could. There are a couple of slides that I would like a hard copy of, and obviously one of them is the lighting.
Okay.
And I can't remember which other one, but what would have been helpful too is what category funds these were coming out of, and what the balance is now would be remaining.
For the 35 other projects.
Right.
I can make a note of that.
Okay, thank you. If we could each get a copy of this as well. And Mr. Magana, Lieutenant Magana, I was also wondering why, maybe you just haven't completed it yet, but you were doing a report as well that really tied into crime in these unlit areas. And I was hoping that is forthcoming soon. I know you're working on it, but to me, they just go hand in hand.
Councilwoman Bragg, I'll answer that real quick so he doesn't have to come up or he gets cold.
Freezing in here.
Oh, come on. It feels good in here. Anyway, he has submitted the SEPTED report to us, and I have Hank looking at that. Hank wants to meet with the Sheriff's Department. He wants to correct a couple of things that they have identified in the report that he thinks might be off by a block and a couple of things like that. So it is done. The sheriff has done their part. We're just kind of making some last minute details and we'll get it out.
Okay, the reason why I wanted to bring that up was because obviously those areas would be our priority areas when we move forward on that. Thank you. Thank you.
It's very clustered where they are real dark.
Right. With that, meeting adjourned. Calling a closed session meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Bragg. Here. Councilmember Spriggs.
Here.
Councilmember Patton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem West.
Here.
Mayor Dedina.
Here.